This one is for this guy, for Mike Alonso, for Clobby. Mike passed away yesterday, aged 59. The comics expert, wasn't he? Though very humble about it. As a podcaster and YouTuber on Clobbering Times, Mike and his global geek gang have entertained us exploring not just comics, but great TV and film too, several nights a week, all led by Mike. Mike was a big personality, very, very funny, warm and welcoming, passionate about comics and Star Trek. He brought people together. It's a cliche, I know, but in this case, it's true. He was one of a kind. Even in our live chat here at Type 40, it won't be the same without him. So distinctive was he, even in text form. Clobby was a massive fan of particularly classic Doctor Who, even more so Blake Seven, and that's kind of how he and I bonded and what led me to appear on his channel where he held court so graciously. Our deepest condolences and love to those closest to Mike, his friends and family, to Raquel and to Mark and everyone else on his show. There's a link to his family's GoFundMe in the description if you've not come across that yet, if you'd like to help. This edition of our silly, friendly, sometimes a little ranty live stream is dedicated to him, clobbering time and space in his name. Thank you, Mike, for your support and friendship this last few years. Avon lives. Clobby lives. Time for Type 40 Live, materialising again here with the live stream Doctor Who magazine show across your view screen in real time on Rumble, X, YouTube and on Facebook too. As ever, we're in front of a live chat full of friends, fans and companions just like you. Yes, you there. The big weekend edition of our traditional monster look at the past, present and future of the Whoniverse is right here. There's masses to get into, including some sobering stats and some proper gobby twats. That's not us. That's not us. Well, not just us. It's them as well. Find out who's been saying what. Stay with us. Get comfy. We're in for a long ride here. I am Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks. We'll find out who you are in a moment or two, wherever you're watching and interacting across YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X. As always, if you're in the Type 40 Facebook group, you've got to remember to hit the little blue link, and that way Facebook will tell StreamYard who you are, and StreamYard will tell us, and we'll all get on first name terms for this rattle through the week in all things Doctor Who. Can't wait to get started. Oh, so much to get into. Any wonder when there's 61 years worth of Doctor Who, 15 incarnations of the Time Lord himself, and all manner of things all up the pictures this week. Where should we hunker down this time? I think we'll go Yeah. It's a bit cold out, considering it's the middle of June here in Britain. So I want to warm myself here in this console room, I think. But is there seating area? Well, people can sit on the stairs, can't they? Who's gonna be in first? Okay. Oh, wearing some. I don't know what she's got on. I think I better just ask her, hadn't I? Starry-eyed girl Sarah Graham, dressed for the occasion. Oh, hello. Hiding her face in shame. Oh, you come as Ed the Duck.
No, I'm a churro, whatever they were called.
A churro? A Cheerio? Is that breakfast cereal?
Them pigeon alien things. Look, I'm the Duchess. Duchess.
Oh, of course you are. It's wasted on me, everybody. It's wasted on me. Hello. Thanks for making the effort.
Well, I've missed a lot, so I better make up for it. Yeah.
Starry-eyed Duchess.
One gag, so I hope you appreciate.
Well, I'm sure they'll go back. It's such a good gag. They'll go back and they'll replay this bit till their heart's content over the next few days. I've no doubt.
It'll get more ratings than the actual episode did.
But that wouldn't be very hard. That would be very hard, wouldn't it? Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Okay, so you've got bright yellow on. We're going to try for a full set of bright colours, shall we? I don't know how well we're going to get on. We can always rely on Simon Horton, though, I think, can't we, to hold up his end?
Oh. You leave my end out of it, Dan Hadley.
Good evening, sir.
I got it straight away, Sarah. Don't worry, Dan's just clearly behind the door. I love it.
Very much like yours, though,
wasn't it a Cholder or a Childer or something like that? Am I right? Is it a Cholder?
See, I thought you were trying to be Charizard from the Pokemon. you know what I mean?
A little bit, yeah.
But am I right? Is that what the aliens were called this week? Were they the Childer, the Cholder, the Chunder?
I've tried to block it all out.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get back to a cozy place here. I'm trying to get back to a cozy. Let's bring some more in, shall we? I know who'll be a steady hand and voice on this evening. Has to be Charlotte Shields, doesn't it?
I can tell you've not played a Pokemon game, Dan. I can tell.
Have I got my Pokemon mixed up as well?
Because Charizard's a dragon.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Who's the duck-looking one then? Who's that?
But there's quite a few that look like ducks.
I don't know what any of you are talking about.
I'm amazed you came out with Pokemon though, because we know you don't play games.
No, I don't. Welcome to Pokemon Live, everybody, for your Thursday evening. Yes, have you been, Charlotte? What's going on with you?
Outside of Doctor Who, good. There's been trailers for shows I'm excited about. There's been some actual announcements for games that look good. So, everything outside of Doctor Who land, I've had a good time with this week.
It kind of gets to that point, doesn't it, Charlotte, where you kind of have to just ignore what's happening in Doctor Who and enjoy other stuff in your life. It's bad.
I feel a little bit bad for dragging you back to the console room here and spoiling your week.
No, that's a good console room, Dan. That's a good console room. And the difference
is, I'm with friends, not with irritating people I want to just yeet off a cliff. So.
Fair enough. We have at least one more person to bring in, I'm happy to say, and it's sounding better than ever. It's our mate John Youlden.
Hello, how are you? You all right?
Hello. Yes, John Youlden is running in a new mic, aren't you, mate?
Yeah, I sound husky.
Steady on. If Shooty hears that, he'll be like a red rag to a bull.
Yeah, we're going to be knocking on your door.
I just want to thank you all for inviting me to group therapy this evening. It's very appreciated.
We honestly can't promise you anything. you might just have to get out while you can.
Yeah, it's been a week and a half, hasn't it, John? But how's things been with you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, this week's gone so fast, isn't it? It's flown by. You know, apparently there was an episode of Doctor Who on at the weekend, but I seem to have erased that part of my memory for some reason. I don't know why. So, fill me in later.
Yeah, I'm afraid we're going to take you right back there for a little while. And you out there too will come to your comments in a moment, I've no doubt. But the one reason why I wanted to look at this particular console room, not only because it reminds us of happier times, Sarah, but it has got that kind of rock and roll vibe, which befits the first thing I wanted to talk about. Because if you remember, the 12th Doctor, he used to like to sort of get down in here, didn't he? Quite literally, you know, he'd be jamming, wouldn't he?
He did indeed, yeah, and it
Quite regularly.
Hello.
good, and yeah, and it worked with his Doctor. He kind of went for that kind of old rocker Doctor.
Old
Are you
muso.
okay?
I'd shudder to speak
Yeah.
to think what this Doctor would do with an instrument, to be honest with you. So it's probably for the best he hasn't got one.
It depends what you mean by instruments. Yeah, so,
We're not going there.
so there's the Doctor, the proper Doctor, twanging away until his heart's content in the bowels of the TARDIS. And was he, Simon, maybe strumming out Spiders from Mars or something like that? That's what I was wondering. Because Peter Capaldi is a big Bowie fan, isn't he? And David Bowie, who you're a big fan of too, does have links to Doctor Who, doesn't he?
Oh well, he has. I'm not sure what you're alluding to. It could well be that if you're referring to the fact that he's nearly been cast in Doctor Who so many times and never actually quite managed to get there.
Oh, I only know of the one, so give us a rundown. Which are the couple of times?
Well, there are two that I know of, and they're both Graham Harper productions. He was nearly Sharazchek in The Caves of Androzani. That's the one that everybody knows about. But he was also Graham Harper also considered him for the part of the DJ in Revelation of the Daleks.
Did he really?
Yeah, he did. Graham Harper was clearly determined to get Bowie in there. But I mean, at one point there was even vague mutterings back in the 80s about whether he would be cast as the Doctor. I can remember that there were sort of rumours flying around that Bowie might have been cast as the Doctor, because of course he did act. Bowie did act. He did a lot of acting, and so it wasn't completely out of the question that Bowie might have ended up in as the Doctor. It's possible, or certainly in Doctor Who. But he's clearly, bless him, he by that point he was just too mega. He was too massive,
too huge.
Could you imagine him as Sharazchek though? I mean, it literally. Would he be singing at the Fifth Doctor?
No.
Well, the guy who played Sharazchek was kind of Bowie-like, wasn't he? Christopher Gable. And obviously, Bowie was a very photogenic man, very talented, charismatic man. And if anybody can act their way from underneath that leather mask, it probably would have been him, Sarah.
Yeah, I must be honest. I think he could have done it. I think he'd have done a brilliant job as Sharazchek. Yeah. That's not to say I don't adore Christopher Gable, because I do. But I think Bowie as Sharazchek would have been electrifying. But I think I honestly find anything that Bowie is in utterly electrifying. And I know, Sarah, you're a massive fan of Labyrinth.
I am.
Yeah, he's a good old actor, and he's very, very versatile. And he actually is, oddly, a character actor. You might not necessarily think that. You kind of assume, well, he's just a pop star, and so his acting ability is going to be limited. Whether or not you think he's a good actor is open to debate, but he is a character actor. He takes on a number of different roles. He played the part of the Elephant Man in New York without any makeup whatsoever, and won so many plaudits for doing it. And he had no makeup at all, nothing.
He was larger than life, wasn't he, and full of charisma. And just like Tom Baker, he seemed like he was somebody from another planet, John. I think that's the attractive idea of Bowie anywhere near Doctor Who, let alone him playing the Doctor. Have you ever wondered what it'd be like if David Bowie was the Doctor, John?
That'd certainly be an interesting take. It could have gone in a completely different direction. Star power could have got a lot more people watching, I suppose. But yeah, it would have been interesting, wouldn't it?
Well, what if we could take a peek into another dimension right now, where David Bowie did play the Doctor at the height of his fame? Would anybody fancy that?
Yeah,
say yes.
Bring it on.
Say yes. Say yes. Check this out, everybody. Check this out.
Oh, that literally gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
That gives
That's
me
beautiful.
goosebumps.
I would have
seen a lot
watched the heck
lately.
out of that.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of these at the moment. They're doing them like for like 50 Star Wars as well, aren't they? They're doing the rounds. Very, very good.
It is very clever. And what I love about that is seeing Bowie with Liz Shaw, with Joe Grant, with Sarah Jane Smith. That's just brilliant. God, it literally has sent shivers down my spine. Just the thought of Bowie doing that kind of stuff in Doctor Who would have been utterly mind-blowing. I'd love to have seen it.
Because we all sit here and sort of get a bit bemused, don't we, by AI and sometimes worry about what it could mean for creativity. But you see something like that and it's so seductive, it's so inspiring.
I think
Next 5 years, isn't it? It'll be.
Yeah.
Charlotte?
What's so brilliant about it is I like ideas that we would have just talked about as fans, or we would have just like put on a in chat rooms or message boards or whatever. Now somebody can actually make it. And that's what we can, like before we would have just talked about it. But you've actually got like almost a proof of concept now that you can go, look, here's, like you said, here's him with companions, with Cybermen, with other aliens, with one, and I adore Heroes. That's one of my favourite songs. Yeah. So to hear that, the orchestral version of that. Yeah. And like it would have, and like think about like it would have made sense to actually have some of his music in the show then.
Yes.
And it would have been brilliant to have that as the underscore almost.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine?
What could have been?
It almost made me neat. If it was going to work, it would have worked after Tom Baker. Not that, again, I adore Peter Davison and I would never want to take Peter Davison away. But if it was going to work, it would have worked after Tom Baker because Tom had been so huge that Bowie following Baker would actually have worked. He would have taken it off it would have flown under Bowie at that point. And it's interesting. Time says in the chat that Bowie changing costumes in that clip that you just showed, Dan. Bowie changing costumes of the Doctor works in the way that Ncuti Gatwa doesn't. This is TARDIS Time saying this, and I would agree. And I think part of the reason for that is because Bowie was literally a kind of he was a showroom dummy. You could put anything on Bowie and he would have looked stunning. He's like Debbie Harry in that respect. You put a bin liner on Debbie Harry or indeed Bowie and they still look brilliant. And I think Ncuti Gatwa thinks he is that, but in my opinion isn't. I just think there are some. Brad Pitt is another one. You could put Brad Pitt in anything and he would always look eminently cool.
Oh no, it's funny. It's funny that we're talking about Barry because I was chatting with my dad and he goes, "Oh, you need to see the video of him and Mick Jagger when they did Dancing in the Street."
Yeah.
Well, no,
fantastic.
But he said you have to watch it because they look so good, and I watched it.
They do look good.
And I said, "Well, Jagger, no, because he just looks like a maniac." But actually, I said, Barry, in that he's got like an outfit which anybody else would put that on, and it'd look silly. But
correct.
In that video,
yeah.
He could have that long coat and that sort of don't even know
jumpsuit. It's a jumpsuit, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he looks cool. Like I agreed with my dad for Bowie, definitely. I was like, yeah, he looks cool in that video.
He does. Jagger looks a scruff, in all honesty.
Jagger looks terrible.
He hasn't even touched. It always bugs me. He hasn't even tucked his shirt in properly to his jeans.
Never mind all this talk about jumpsuits and all that kind of thing. Let's jump over to the live chat there on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X, and see which other comments we've got from everybody sat there waiting and listening to all this nonsense. What do they think of all of that so far?
Hi guys, and welcome to Type 40.
That was a clever link. That was, Dan. Jumpsuits to jump. You're rocking this, mate. It's like you do this every week.
Yeah.
It's not my first barbecue. Okay. Hello, everybody. We've got some comments and people who are in early, including the great Bert. Great Bert says, so I love the name Bert. Bird-headed aliens in Rogue and gastropods in the previous one. Is Russell T Davis sprinkling nods to the twin dilemma? Will the Sylvester twins return for the season finale? We can only hope, Bert. We can only hope. Good to have you here, everybody. We've got Neville Watkins is in too, or at least he was. And we've got Garbage here too. He says that we are at that point now, Charlotte, with fans and content creators saying, I don't care. They've got past the point where they're angry with the Save Our Franchise message, and now they're all giving up. There's an air of despondency in the air, a little, I think, this week in particular.
Yeah, I would say that's a very apt statement currently with the fandom.
Thank heaven for Rob Alexander. Greetings, fellow Who fans, he says on YouTube. Great to have Type 40 lifting the spirits on a soggy Thursday.
It is a very soggy Thursday, Rob. Very soggy. Even Lenny won't go outside.
We've got Darren M in the live chat as well with his hail and howdies. That's always good to see as well. Lord Thoth's kicking around here and there. It's probably best not to ask where. We have Starry, that's you. Ducky, as I'm going to start calling you.
Ducky.
And Heretic, all the way from sunny, doubtlessly soggy Dudley as well. Sunny and soggy. There we go. There's a combination. We have Peter Harrington in the live chat as well. Good evening, good day, wherever you are in the world.
Hello, Peter.
Hello, Peter.
Hello, love.
Hi. Daryl Joyce is, now here's some bait. Crash site, presumably in Sean Connery's accent. I'm not going to even try it. I always go for that when I've had a few. I'm not going to do it live. Anybody want to be game enough to take the challenge? He's thrown down the gauntlet. Anybody want to try the Sean Connery accent here live on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook and X?
I don't think so. No, I don't think
Lenny?
so.
Was that Lenny or was that you?
Cheeky devil.
Hi, everyone, says Ben Casey.
Ben.
Great
Hello,
to see
Ben.
you again, Ben. And he's missed you. You, Sarah. I missed you.
Ben.
There you go. I told you, didn't I? I told you.
Ben, oh, come on. It's not fair.
And Ben pleads, Dan, we need Doctor Who back, not a political messaging show. Well, I couldn't agree
Ben,
more.
what have you got Tennant doing in that picture? Is that a bit of a hint at a message as well?
Oh, yes, flicking the V's. Yes. Good. Evening, everyone, says Matthew Butterfield. Hope you're all enjoying the heatwave. Heatwave. Chance to be a fine thing. Enigmatic Joker's back. So's Woodhouse 122. David's here as well.
Hello, David.
That's our friend, isn't it? We're kicking around Lichfield there with David. Good to see you there, buddy.
Yeah, David's a new. Since we started kicking around Lichfield, he watches us every week now. Well done, David. Nice to have you on board.
Thank you, David. My new pub friend. We were in that pub for a very long time.
You're still drunk, aren't you, Sarah? I know you are. You're still drunk. It was still
3 hours suicide. You're going on.
Oh, if walls could talk.
Tom from T Dwarf Productions is in too, and he says, hi everyone, I'm hoping to have another pet crab in the future after the sad loss of Betty earlier in the week. Tom, again, our condolences.
Yeah, condolences from everybody at Type 40 to poor old Betty. The macro crab is no more, bless her.
Ezra Goldstein's in as well, one of many people wishing remembering Mike Alonso, Clobbering Times, Clobby, a real YouTube legend, one of the loveliest, funniest people. There's lots of messages like that in the live chat. Thank you, everybody. And again, there is that link in the description to the video too. Kelly says, good day, everyone. Good. And we've got Lord Thoth in there too with Avon lives and long live the Legion. I couldn't agree more. We've got Tony Farrell in. Greetings and salutations, one and all from Tony.
Hello, Big T.
Big T, Big T, Big T, Big T, Big T. We've got Melanie Weston Investigates in as well. So, yeah. Oh, and Davros Scaro too. So, yes, let's have some more of all of that as Will Hadcroft as well. My word, we're being spoilt, positively spoilt. Let's see if we can go for another couple more. Like Richard, he's here too. Hi, all from Richard. There's not much fat on that, is there? And the Rabbi from another planet says, hey ho. Oh,
hey ho.
Was it hey honey? Are you doing a shooty?
Oh, stop it.
Doing a 15th Doctor. Yes, so we want more comments. We want more nonsense. And please feel free to drop your tributes in there too to dear Mike in the live chat. Lots to get into. Where should we go first? I know the perfect place, the perfect person. Check this out.
It's your podcast. Okay.
Just want video evidence.
Play this podcast.
What app have you got?
I don't know. Hang on.
This is the best conversation I've ever been involved in.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to send that to myself.
Yes.
Right? So I know it's you.
We'll see us all on there.
Okay.
You might change your mind when you see it.
Don't say that, Sarah.
Always makes me laugh, that one. Always makes me laugh. So
I
up to
always
date now.
cringe at that, Dan. You could tell I was nervous, couldn't you?
Oh, never mind. I think he was more nervous than you were. Okay, so we're up to date now with the presence of Doctor Who. Publicity has stepped up a little this week. There's been several pieces floating around. Not much of it publicising the actual show, though. The majority is, as always, about ideology and nonsense. So thank heaven. Yeah, I know. Thank heaven, Simon, for the return of a genuine showbiz legend, a proper trooper, the ultimate professional. Yes, Bonnie Langford, seen here in a promo pic for the undisputed all-time great story, Delta and the Bannerman. Of course, she's back, and so is the bike. Well, a bike. She's raring to go. Look, heading back to our screens this coming weekend. Happy to see Bonnie Langford returning again so soon, Simon?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I always think that the character of Mel, who I have to be honest, I did not like in the Sylvester McCoy years, I do think the character was poorly served, and I think Bonnie Langford was poorly served. She is arguably one of the most professional actors ever to work on the show. I would say she just literally exudes professionalism from every pore. And so, yeah, I think it's great. Give her a second chance. I thought she was wasted in that episode. I can't even remember which one it was that she was in now. Was it a Tennant one? It's literally months ago, but I can't remember it.
It was
the giggle.
The
giggle.
The 60th specials.
It was pointless putting her in there, I think. Don't you, Charlotte?
Well, the problem is she was there just to have one scene, really, with Tennant. And to me, it just felt like a retread of the Sarah Jane scene from School Reunion.
But not as good.
Oh, my life's been a bit rubbish since you left me. It was just
I thought those were, to be honest, I thought those were quite lovely scenes and quite dialed back.
Well, that was my problem, though. It was nice that the two, Tennant and Bonnie, had a nice little chemistry and a nice little sort of feeling together on screen. But I always thought out of all the companions in Classic, Mel wouldn't have the sort of depressing life afterwards. She would be sort of the go-getter. She'd be the one out there doing stuff. For her to just sort of sit there and be a bit sorry for herself didn't really track with me.
I agree.
That's not how I read it. Because she'd got herself home, hadn't she? She'd, like, her old life had ended out there in the stars, and she'd managed to get home all on her own. How do you see it, Sarah? Sorry.
Well, it doesn't track with. I suppose if you take these, these promotions for the box sets as canon.
Yeah,
She had that lovely scene with Sylvester where she was like this successful businesswoman in some, I don't know, was it an alien planet? So somewhere in the photo, looking really glam and professional and a real high flyer. And then, like Charlotte says, next time we're seeing she's all, I didn't know what to do with myself. I mean, I know the Doctor's brilliant, but it's a trope that we need to stop. People did get on with their lives. It's yes, it is. It's hard to be thrust back down to earth as Sarah did. But again, like Charlotte said, you did it once with Sarah. It didn't need repeating again. But the main thing was she was just kind of there.
Yeah, she was
wasted.
wasted.
Tapping away at a computer. And I'd have liked to have seen her being a bit more proactive and a bit more involved.
Why I appreciate Bonnie Langford, I think, so much, what I've come to realise, John, is that it's been 37 years since this woman left the show originally. She's arguably
very old.
I know, she did. And she arguably did bigger things before and has certainly gone on to far bigger things since on the stage and the screen, both in musical theatre and drama. And yet she's never really slagged off her time in Doctor Who. She's never bitched about it, has she? In the way that others have, who've had right to. I don't begrudge them that, but Bonnie's never done that and gone there because she seems to be too professional.
I've always had a lot of time and a lot of respect for Bonnie Langford. I agree with Simon. I didn't take to her character in the 7th Doctor era and the 6th Doctor era just purely because that wasn't her. It just wasn't a fleshed out character. But I really hope that RTD doesn't just bring her back and just give her a couple of lines. I actually hope he properly does respect to the character and fleshes it out properly. And the final thing I would say, I do like the picture of that moped because it's carrot juice coloured. So
yes, it's very Mel.
Oh, it is.
What is it with Orange with the Shooty Gatwa era? It's just going to be renowned as the Tango era. I don't know what it is.
I think it's partly the fact that Orange is kind of in at the moment, isn't it? Michael Q in the live chat says, I think Mellie's very happy to see her Time Lord pal again. Yeah, maybe she is. Yeah, I mean, obviously she accompanied the 6th and the 7th Doctors from 1986 to 1987. She played the part across 2 summers, which apparently was the original deal, she said this week in an interview. Will Hadcroft says Bonnie was written better and played it better in her first story, Terror of the Vervoids with Colin Baker. I agree. I don't think it ever got better than that for her.
She was really good in that. It was a strong story.
She was good on Big Finish as well. Sorry, Sarah. I was just going to say, Big Finish, she did a few of those, and I always thought she was very, very good in Big Finish. Juggernauts is a good example of how good she is as an actor.
As a result of that, John, you see, of listening to all of those, as well as the other little things she's done, just like Sarah said, that mini-sode on the box sets, and seeing her last year, actually, when I look at, because obviously we're getting towards the end of the season, I've got 2-part season finale to come. Of all the things that we've been promised by the permanently hyperbolic Russell T Davies, Simon, strangely enough, it's the reappearance of this 60-year-old actress from the classic show that I'm looking forward to the very, very most. And it does seem that she's happy to be back in it too. And she's given this interview to TV Choice magazine this week and has teased what's been going on for Mel since we last saw her then in The Giggle. And she says, well, Mel is working at UNIT, but she's on a bit of a covert mission. She's basically spying for UNIT to find out more information because they think something is up. All these different strands come together and it becomes quite desperate. There's a great sadness in the middle of it. Then there's a great moment of desperation. But as I say, she would never leave the Doctor. She believes in him so much. This week, this is actually this entire season, I think the interview that she's given has been the best bit of promo that I've seen anybody give for this season of Doctor Who at all. She's talking about the story. She's zhuzhing us up.
What was I just saying, Dan, about her being one of the most professional people that's ever worked on the show? There is a difference there. She's a professional. She knows the right thing to say rather than just come out with some pat hyperbolic response. And you see it in action there. She knows. She's been doing this for decades, and she knows the things to say. She knows how to play the game. That the last paragraph alone almost makes me want to watch her stuff. Because I don't know, I almost wonder whether she's sort of teasing something in that about I don't know. It's just something suddenly makes me think, gosh, are they going to do something terrible to Mel? Is she going to be killed off or something? I don't know.
There was that fierce, in her original stint on the show, there was that fierce loyalty. I mean, they're all loyal, don't get me wrong, but that earnestness really manifested as this kind of doggedness to following the Doctor's footsteps, and the idea that if he was in danger, she was going to drag him out of it if need be by his ankles. That's what I like about the character of Mel and the way that Bonnie did play that. And so when I read this, I thought, wow, yeah, this is actually about story and about character. These are things that we can measure, and these are the kind of things that we used to get promoting not just, well, mainly actually New Who when Russell was steering the ship originally. These are the kind of quotes that he used to give. But now is Bonnie Langford the only professional left on the crew? I do wonder.
Following on from that, you're right, Dan. And what's interesting about that is that nowhere in there is there any hyperbole at all about her telling you how brilliant her character is, how brilliant the story is. This is the most amazing story Mel's ever been in. So again, if it was RTD or Gatwa, this would just be the best episode you have ever seen, and you won't believe how enormous and huge and fantastic and earth-shattering and universe-shattering it's going to be. And instead, she's just saying, well, it's about this. You know, I think this is quite an interesting way of doing it, and RTD and Gatwa need to, RTD in particular, needs to take note.
Yeah. We've got a comment here from Thomas Taylor in the live chat, Charlotte, who he says it's the end, but the moment has been prepared for. Do you think they'd bump off Mel in this? Do you think they'd have the gall to do that?
I don't. I think probably she could be alluding to Ruby, is my feeling more.
Okay.
We saw that shot in the trailer of the Shooty screaming into the void, almost into space. So I would guess that would be because of a companion, something happening to them. That's usually what the Doctor's like when a companion gets sort of in the crosshairs. And usually also they tend to do New Who. The older companions seem to almost be paired off with the new companion a lot. They tend to have a bit of like a comparison, like, oh, what's the Doctor like for you? Or what, like, compare their experiences. So I've got a feeling she'll probably have a lot of scenes with Ruby. This sort of two-parter, I think.
Will Hadcroft reminds us there that he says, I suspect she was at a computer for much of the giggle, because whilst supposedly being a computer programmer in the old series, she never even touched one on screen.
But she did recognise a megabyte modem, so you got to let her off that.
Who wouldn't?
She knows a megabyte modem when she sees one.
Who wouldn't? Who couldn't? Fly Highland reminds us she was also in The Power of the Doctor. See, this is something I'd blocked that out completely, John.
Where was she now? Was she in the group?
Sat in the group, yeah.
Oh, she was at the end, yeah.
TARDIS Travels is there kicking around, and so is Chris Graham says, so looking forward to seeing Bonnie. We'll be watching to catch up with Mel. Who could blame him? Big Finish is
that's not my Chris, because he wouldn't know who Mel is.
Oh, there we are. I thought it was. Big Finish so expanded the love for the character, says Peter Harrington. I think that's absolutely true. I really do. Bonnie Langford went on to heap praise on her co-star on her newest Doctor. Of this is the bit where she talks about Ncuti Gatwa, and she said about his Doctor, says, there's a lot of pressure for Ncuti. He has a lot of responsibility, and whenever anyone takes over in that role, it's a minefield. And in this day and age, with there being so much more immediacy with social media, it is really tricky. But he's very dedicated. I mean, he gets up at 4:30 a.m. to do a workout, for God's sake. So I do, obviously she was responding to questions from TV Choice, but it's interesting that she mentions social media. And you do wonder sometimes, do these actors, they may be all smiles when we see him in photo shoots and on red carpets, but, reaction hasn't been universally great this last few weeks. Do you think Bonnie's aware of that, maybe, Simon? Or is she speaking more generally from her own experience?
No, I think she's probably aware of the fact that she was operating in a world where social media didn't exist, and so she was never affected by it. And I think she can probably see the impacts that social media is having on the young upcoming stars. The age Ncuti was, she didn't have to contend with that kind of stuff. She did have the tabloids leaping on her back, and they sort of tore her to pieces. The tabloids.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's still different to social media. By the way, I do have to just correct you on this, Dan, now, because I'm so relieved for the official BBC Doctor Who podcast. I don't know where we'd be without them. Thank goodness, because they have reliably informed me this week that it's not Ncuti at all. It's Ncuti. Apparently, apparently now Ncuti has decided he's not silent after all, and his name actually is Ncuti, and apparently it's because his mom's told him so. His mom's told him how to pronounce his name. I'm not sure how he can have got as quite the age he has without knowing how to pronounce his name, but it seems he has.
So for 2.5 years, Sarah, the entire fandom has been coaching one another to pronounce that properly, and it turns out we got it wrong, and so did he.
it seems.
I don't understand how you get to 31 and not know how to pronounce your name. I'm just a bit staggered by that.
Well,
Okay.
read into that what you want to, Sarah.
Hopefully, Unshooty though doesn't speak out against people on social media. Because he might be a more friendly and reliable person than Shooty.
Well, it's possible, I suppose.
Yeah, you
Maybe
never know.
he's inventing himself. Maybe.
Yeah.
Obviously, Mel was there at the birth of the 15th Doctor a few months ago, clutching onto him there as he was split away from his predecessor in scenes never to be forgotten for the 60th anniversary there. And Bonnie Langford does seem to be very happy to be back with the Doctor Who and with us, with the fans. So I think that the other cast and the crew, the production personnel, should probably take a leaf out of Bonnie's book and start telling us the stuff that we need to know, that we want to know, and relate to us in the way that makes us want to watch their show, basically. Shah's in the live chat and she says, happy Thursday, everyone.
Hello, Shah.
Happy Thursday, Shah. Happy Thursday. And we've got lots more people rolling in as well. Always fantastic to see. I mean, what she makes of current goings on in Doctor Who, I have no idea. I mean, they didn't do all the snogging, for example, Simon. Everybody's snogging everything and everyone all the time. You didn't get that in the classic show, did you?
You certainly didn't. You didn't need it, Dan. You know why? Because we had damn good stories in the classic years and fantastic characters. You didn't need to try and spice it up with a cheap, nasty snog just to try and drag people in.
Well, there was this, but no.
That's something entirely different, Dan. You simply don't understand, do you?
but yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah, they never forced Mel to snog anybody during her run of the show. They just got on with the action and the adventure. But that's all that people have been talking about all week, isn't it? Really, sort of kissing and snogging in Doctor Who. We talked about it a little bit on the last show with Shah and Chris, didn't we, John? But the fuss around this, well, not around that in particular, but around this hasn't died off, has it, in the last few days?
Dan, take it away.
Take it away.
Seriously, nobody wants to see it, really.
So, Simon, did you catch the episode after all?
No. I said I was out, and I am out. I have seen sufficient of this episode to be able to comment on it. I've seen enough clips on various social media, YouTube, etc. And so, I can kind of speak with authority that I am so pleased I'm out. This is just the furthest thing from Doctor Who it has ever been, and I've always said that it doesn't bother me. I don't care because I've got enough classic Who that I can watch and enjoy. It's actually beginning to break my heart a bit now because it's come so far away from being Doctor Who. I just don't even know why they're bothering calling it Doctor Who. I've said it so many times before.
Yeah.
If you want to do this show, do it and just call it something new and let it sink or swim on its own merits. If the viewers love it, then they'll flock to it. Why have you got to subvert Doctor Who from what it was for 60 years? Don't know. Don't get it.
It was like watching a different show altogether for a large portion of it the other Saturday. And it does make you wonder, how are the casuals, if the fans can't get excited about what little things they've been sort of running through this season, then how on earth do they think they can retain a normie audience? Michael Q here is speculating about who Ruby's birth mother could be, Charlotte. We're now several weeks into this. If you include the Christmas special, we're like 8 episodes in. I couldn't give a rat's ass. I really don't.
Well, the problem is that looked like at the beginning of the series that was going to be the one sort of thread that he was going to keep, and he was going to give little clues, because in the first 1 or 2 episodes we did start to get little hints, and then it's now just dropped off a cliff. He's hardly talked about Ruby's parents or the circumstances of her birth. Yeah. He's just been shown as a random old woman every week, and now expecting me to be so excited for knowing who this woman is, who 1 week she's a rambler, the next week she's a portrait, and then the next week she's the mum to some vapid 20-something who I want to punch. So it's Russell, do you remember when we used to have Bad Wolf? And the whole Yana and the Master and Harold Saxon and everything you used to be good at doing, building your stories up to?
Yeah.
I've got this.
We're 6 episodes in. Obviously, there's 2 more left to go. Look, last week we talked extensively about the ratings again, didn't we? We were speculating because we've had figures. The figures keep on sort of coming, a slow, steady trickle of the figures they want us to see to go with these 6 episodes that have released so far. But you have to wonder, don't you, what's going to be the long-term impact of screening material that's so variable, John, on a show which is arguably sort of on its uppers. This is kind of make or break for Doctor Who as a popular series. So to do that over a period of time that's just 7 weeks, if you remember the double bill,
I'm amazed what they've done with this series, because you've said it before and we've talked about this before, Dan. It had to come back swinging. They had to really come back and say, right, we need to get everybody invested in it. We need to really get everyone buzzing about this new show, and let's go. And we all thought that to begin with, and then the media campaign, telling people to touch grass, all of that's outside of the show. But then it amazes me today, modern producers or the people that do their marketing and their PR, they just don't understand the value of a customer, because that's what we are as viewers. We're customers. So it's basically, entertain them is the first thing, but they just don't get it, do they? It's crazy.
They don't care, I think, John, to be honest. I just don't think they care. It is amazing that they only had 8 episodes and they just really couldn't afford, and there was no excuse for them to take a wrong foot on any of them. When you've only got 8 episodes to make, you haven't got a lot of, let's be honest, you haven't got a lot of stuff to churn out. And so there just isn't any excuse for there being 1 poor episode, let alone arguably, in my estimation, 4, 5, 6. And interestingly, Josh H makes a really good point in the chat that we just haven't seen enough of the relationship between the Doctor and Ruby to care, because 2 of the 5 episodes we've seen so far, either the Doctor isn't there, or both of them are just floating around in a bubble with hardly any interaction. That you haven't built up any connection with the 2 characters as a couple, as a relationship, to care about what happens to either of them. There's just no commitment there.
It is bizarre. Neville Watkins in the live chat says, it baffles me. It could have been huge, but it's like they've taken their foot off the pedal. But they've taken their foot off the awesome pedal. That's you wouldn't think it possible.
I fear it could be RTD's just ego again. Just feels he can do no wrong. Maybe he just doesn't feel he has to try that hard anymore. I don't know. Or has he run out of ideas? I don't know. Don't know.
Well, it is having an effect. Obviously, we've been following this very, very closely, haven't we? Oh, hang on. Wrong one. We've been following this very, very. We've been following this very, very closely over the last few weeks, and we all want the best for this show. We all want it to do well, and I like to think that a great many of us, even if we think okay, this isn't necessarily our show anymore, or the kind of model of Doctor Who that we'd want to see, that hopefully it'll find an audience and kind of find its way back to us through them when we see other people enjoying it. But right now, I do feel that the person who seems to be enjoying Doctor Who more than anybody else does seem to be Ncuti Gatwa. And whilst I think that's lovely, it's not really going to help, and it's being reflected in the ratings, it has to be said. So here we have our ratings accumulator, as always. So it's the overnight figures and the consolidated figures there, and it's been painting a very particular picture over the last few weeks. But we do have now that consolidated figure for Dot and Bubble that we were hungering for, if you remember last week, Simon, which I said, and I still believe this is the most telling and this is the crucial figure that's kind of going to dictate the success, the pattern of this show, because obviously Dot and Bubble was screened on that Saturday evening when it was roaring hot in Britain, which does send people away from the television. And the question that I asked was, okay, so people didn't watch that night, but the BBC have repackaged Doctor Who, and they've picked it to lead the charge of television that's going to premiere on iPlayer, haven't they? So it's available before, during, and after transmission. So in theory, if the show is hitting, then because fewer people watched it live, then if they're doing it right, if they're getting it right, the increase on the consolidated figure should certainly be holding and ideally rising. Yeah. The consolidated figure for Dot and Bubble was released the other day, and what do we see?
Catastrophic. I mean, interestingly, bless you, Dan, you were optimistic last week that the weather that might have affected the.
I felt it was right to explore the possibilities, because I have to be honest, these ratings had surprised me. These ratings, because they'd surprised me a couple of times in the past. So I thought, okay, these things. There are a couple of scenarios that could have played out, but the fact that more people did catch up, but interestingly, it's down quite a big chunk on the people that have been catching up with previous weeks.
Interestingly, you're right, Dan. It's the lowest catch up so far. It's simply the least catch up. So it is now very, very clear. Not only less people are watching on the night, but less people are watching on catch up. Just truth be told, less people are watching. It's as simple as that. It's not hitting at home with the public.
None of us take any pleasure in seeing this, do we, Sarah?
No, it's genuinely sad. I mean, I've stayed well away from this. I knew after Church on Ruby Road, this wasn't for me. But I thought, well, okay, if this is the direction they're going in, it might not be a hit with me, but, I'm just one type of fan. If it hits with the general public or it hits with that younger generation, fair enough. But clearly it's not doing that either. And it's just sad to see how far we've dwindled, even from Jodie.
We've got a comment here from Peter Harrington who says, if it's good, people will watch on transmission and spread the word, and that's just not happening. I mean, it did happen a little after Boom, but it's as if word got around that, Doctor Who might be back after all, because that was recognisably Doctor Who, but things have definitely gone very wrong, I feel.
I think, and I said this last week, I think that ending scene and the context of what Russell was doing in that ending scene in Dot and Bubble.
Dot and Bubble, yeah.
I had a feeling that's going to stop people from watching this on catch up.
Yes, I agree.
Because if there's one thing that's going to get out, it's going to be what happened at the end of the episode.
Mm-hmm. And it did get out, Charlotte.
It got out, and that was the only thing I saw any sort of commentary about to do Dot and Bubble. And it was people basically having the argument of, we're straight back to the show hitting you over the head with its politics. We're straight back to Russell basically blaming one group, saying you're all horrible, you're all this, you're all that. That sort of writing was back. And the thing that's been doing my head in, and I've seen a few people talk about this, is we knew at some point having a non-white doctor was going to come up in the writing. Like it should have come up at some point, and it would have been a bit silly if Russell hadn't have brought it up. But it wasn't in the historical episode. It wasn't in the 60s, when actually you would have had a reason to write it in your script that it would be an issue with certain people shooty walking around.
Yeah.
But no, he picked the futuristic episode. He picked the one where it made the least sense when it comes to what has already gone before. And
it's also marred. It's also marred what was a strong episode, I feel. I mean, Shah's in the live chat says, I like Dot and Bubble. I liked that episode a lot until the last 10 minutes. I really did. And I do wonder, in some ways, I think, Charlotte, when you give people an episode like that, which is kind of not exactly moving the needle as such, but which seems at least an evolution of Doctor Who in some form, you think, oh, Doctor Who's doing this now. It's doing the Black Mirror thing.
Yeah.
Then to hit them with that. So if anybody was surprised by what Doctor Who was doing, by the end of that episode, they're right back to, oh, now I remember why I stopped watching this show.
Yes, we're straight back to why Jodie's era failed. We're straight back to what was some of the issues we started having in Moffat's run. This has been an ongoing issue with this show.
And of course, it's going to affect further episodes, isn't it? So yeah, we've got the first 5. They've got the statistics for those. They've started publishing, or at least they've got those 28-day figures now for earlier ones, but they're not actually being published yet. And the AAI figures also are still missing in action. We are seeing a few rumours about that. I'm not going to go with those figures until they're substantiated, because I don't think that would be fair, because if we end up going back on them, then everybody's got egg on their faces, haven't they? But obviously there's scarce few episodes left. We've had these 5. We've had another one this weekend with Rogue, and so after that sort of final 10 minutes and that low figure for Dot and Bubble, that is the lowest ever consolidated figure in New Who history. You have to wonder who's going to come back for the following week. The overnight figure for Rogue holds surprisingly well. It's near enough the amount of people who turned up for Dot and Bubble, so that did surprise me. But you do have to wonder, what's the consolidated figure going to be like? It's going to be a fall. I feel that's almost inevitable, John.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I can't see anything other than a 4. I'd be a full. I'd be amazed if it stayed level. But I think just because of that last episode, like you were saying about the end of Dot and Bubble turning people off, I think even if they came back for Rogue, they would be like, no, I was definitely right for Dot and Bubble. I'm not watching this. It's not for me. And that'll be it for them. I actually think RTD, clearly he's got his ego, but also there's the blame above him about who was allowing him to put this in. And I said on Monday, if you want to write a racial story, throughout whatever episode of the season or anything else, fill your boots, but be intelligent about it. Be a very talented writer. And I said 20 years ago, Star Trek Deep Space Nine did a fantastic story on racism, and that's 20 years ago.
Do you know what? You're right, John, and I'll go one further on that. About 50 years ago, the Tomorrow People did it with the blue and the green. That's a brilliant story all about racism. And the reason it's clever is because racism is never mentioned. It's simply that everybody sides with either the blue or the green. And so there is racism on both sides. What Dot and Bubble is purely racism from white people against black people. It's one-sided racism. So you can write a really clever racist story. But
people are sick. No, people are sick of that kind of content. They're sick of being preached to. They're sick of being told how terrible and racist we all are. When Britain is the most inclusive, or one of the most inclusive and tolerant countries in the entire world, it's really is taking the slash. So when you come back to the following week and you get Rogue, I mean, if you think reaction to Dot and Bubble was bad, reaction to Rogue has been positively incendiary. This thing is a real turd. And conversation, I mean, you've got the usual places singing its praises, places like the Metro, but everybody else has been tearing this thing to shreds.
Love New Doctor.
Did they really? I do believe that when word gets around about how bad that was, the quality of it, I'm talking about here, the quality of that episode, it was very poorly written, horrendously acted in places, and the story was, the characters were just non-existent. I think this is the kind of shit that's gonna stick. I really, really do.
And again, the same as Charlotte was saying about Dot and Bubble, the only thing that people were talking about was the last 5 minutes of Dot and Bubble. The only thing people are talking about with Rogue is basically the gay flirting that just goes on for the majority of the episode, and culminating in the gay kiss. So that's all people again are talking about. Nobody's talking about saying, wow, again, going back to, I don't know, for example, The Unquiet Dead, which was episode 3 of series 1 with Eccleston. And at that point, everybody was just talking about, wow, have you seen Doctor Who? It's brilliant. Whereas now everybody's just talking about the fact it's turned into some gay romp. And so actually, I honestly think before the end of the season, we're going to be touching 3 million viewers. I don't think it's inconceivable at this point that we might even dip below 3 million viewers, which is just mind-boggling to think about, that Davis has done this. He's brought it to this. And I can't help thinking, I wonder whether he's having sleepless nights at this point, thinking, wow, did I actually get this wrong? I seriously wonder. I don't know.
Because the thing is with Rogue, it for a lot of the fandom, it changed the Doctor and crossed the line into the Doctor, something the Doctor isn't. And it reminded me, not in exactly the same way, because it was a different way the Doctor was changed, but how Jodie, the reaction to the Jodie scene with "Can you hear me?" with the "I'm socially awkward." Because then you had the Doctor being seen as uncaring and unable to connect with people. And those are the things the Doctor is the most, if you are to describe this character. They are the most caring, intelligent, sort of people-based characters out there that they'll always reach out. Even if they don't know the words, they would at least hug. And here, in this, like I said, different idea, but same vein, they've made the Doctor into a sexualized character.
Yeah.
Which is something, romance was in Modern Who, and that's also the funny thing. I'm seeing certain people now trying to justify it by saying, well, this kiss happened and this kiss happened. No, the Doctor was never the center point of that sort of lustful, sexualized, going after the other character. Even Rose, when there was a romance there, the Doctor never went after Rose. It was all under the surface. It was all subtext.
Yeah. Well, with Rose as well, Charlotte, it was more of an emotional bond. Like you were saying, it wasn't sexual, it wasn't lustful. The clips that I've seen from this episode, it's just unbelievably sexual to the point of being disgusting, if I'm honest.
Yes.
It puts... I mean, you'll know more about this, Simon, than I do, but I thought it was pretty damaging to gay people. To be honest,
I agree with you, Sarah. I feel it is damaging to gay people because it gives the wrong message out to begin with. You know, the whole point is the Doctor shouldn't be sexualized. I honestly think most people feel that the Doctor is not a sexual character. And the problem is you do something like this in Doctor Who and it immediately puts people's backs up. And so I can see people now railing against this. And to be clear, I am railing against this. But I don't want to see really people railing against it because it makes people feel... It gives them an idea about gay people, and it can put people off the idea of gay people. It can turn the movement backwards because people don't want to see it in Doctor Who, and so they're irritated by it. And so that suddenly sets up a degree of irritation then towards gay people, full stop. And that we shouldn't be doing that. And to be clear, Davis knows what he's doing here. He's deliberately throwing that in to be divisive. He knows that the results will be divisive. He knows it will not be 100% of the people are going to be fully on board this and embrace this as the greatest thing that's ever turned up on their television sets. He knows that. So he's deliberately baiting people to be divisive. Does he not realize that actually by doing what he's doing, he's putting up more barriers and putting more antagonism towards gay people than breaking down barriers? It's just completely counterproductive. What's going on in his head beyond his ego? Nothing, it now seems.
He's become ideologically captured and intellectually compromised. And he has to be looking at this behind closed doors. There's no way they're going to be happy with this lay of the land. I can't see how they can be. It's looking pretty bad wherever you look. I mean, the lowest ever new series consolidated figure previously held by this tawdry piece of crap, Legend of the Sea Devils, just over 2.5 years ago. I mean, this was really piss poor. It's unsurprising that did as badly as it did. At least production values on Rogue were better, I suppose. But who cares? Who cares about all that stuff when you've got it wrapped up in so much ideology and poor storytelling, a bad characterization, a guest cast member who's supposed to be a tentpole star who looked like he'd rather be anywhere but there. It was extraordinary, and it was very, very off-putting.
He didn't even look like he was in the right show. He didn't feel like he was in the right show. I don't believe that I can't even remember his name, the guest actor, but whoever
Jonathan Groff.
Right, okay, then he looked like he was in another production in the next door studio, and he was just kind of dialing in a performance. You know what I mean? He just, from what I've seen, he didn't feel committed to it.
Can I just say quickly with the chat, with the Amy example, Amy very clearly kissed Matt's doctor. He did not go for that kiss when it was, I think it was the end of the second episode, I can't remember, when she's literally pushed him against the TARDIS, like caged him, and she went for him, and his hands and everything was it was literally the body language of get away, I don't like it. Because Matt didn't have like traditional romantic vibes at all with his doctor. I know we had River near the end. And then with Tennant, yes, there was the relationship there with Rose, but he never outwardly said he loved her. He never outwardly said they were boyfriend, girlfriend. He never outwardly said anything. It was all subtext. That's what the difference was.
Well, and the other thing that's got to be taken into account here, Charlotte, you're spot on with what you're saying, but the other thing that's got to be taken into account as well is that from what I've seen of Saturday's episode, the majority of it, basically all of the Doctor's stuff pretty much, is taken up with this literally chasing this bloke and the bloke chasing him. It's flirting. It's that's all that particular storyline is. And so the kiss that you're talking about with Amy is something that's very throwaway at the end of the episode, whereas the whole raison d'etre of Rogue is this relationship, this gay relationship between the Doctor and the character. And again, it's got no foundation in reality, because again, we don't spend, the Doctor has been with this man for about 3 seconds before supposedly they fall in love with each other and want to run off in a spaceship.
Completely and utterly unearned, and it's unrecognizable even from the show that he brought back to the screen 20 years ago. The standard of the characterization and the way these characters were weaved together, I think these figures do sadly speak for themselves. Yes, TV is down generally across the board, but think about how many people were willing to turn out for Doctor Who just 6 months ago, Sarah.
Yeah, it's you just can't deny facts. It's a definite drop off both overnight, and they were, clearly hoping dropping it on iPlayer before would save it. In fact, I think it's actually harmed it, because more people.
It looks like it.
Yeah.
Only no favours.
It looks like it. Russell has been very tight-lipped, surprisingly tight-lipped. We're not used to him keeping anything on the down low, are we? We've said it on this show several times. Even me, as somebody who's, I'm a Russell T Davies fan generally, I like that kind of showmanship, the ringmaster approach to running this show. At least he's talking. Chris Chibnall never said sod all. But then now I'm at a place where I think, okay, Russell, now probably is a good time to keep quiet. He has spoken to Radio Times this week, who've got this Doctor Who cover. There we've got 3 Shooty Gatwas. 3 Shooty Gatwas, you'll be pleased to learn, Simon. And inside this gem from Russell T Davies, he's asked explicitly about the growing pains, any growing pains in the new era under the streaming era with Disney. He's specifically asked about, and he says, no, there are none. I'm very proud of it. They might not be the ratings we love. We always want higher, but they're building over the 28-day period. And he insists that the first one is up to 5.6. We have to take his word for this, because these figures haven't been released yet. He's seen them, we haven't. So, but he says it is getting there. Getting there. This is a huge show. They've spent a fortune on it, but he insists that he was brought back to bring in a youthful audience. That's been massively successful. This guy's living on planet Mars, on planet Gallifrey. The audience no one ever gets are the under 30s. That's also untrue. That's simply untrue.
Yeah, that's rubbish.
They just don't watch television anymore. They don't watch television in the way that we used to watch television, but they do consume
watch
television.
Loads of it. That's just rubbish.
I would point to Wednesday, Stranger Things, Fallout, House of the Dragon. I'm sure there's plenty more examples.
He goes on to insist, Sarah, those figures are astronomical for Doctor Who. It's their top programme in that bracket. I never thought it was possible, to be honest. But according to the people who juggle the numbers, all targets have been reached and exceeded. The BBC are running around like mad things. So according to Russell T Davies, there's nothing to see, Simon.
I honestly think that last sentence is the only correct thing in that
exactly
entire
what I was going to say, Simon.
I'm in no doubt that the BBC are absolutely running around like mad things, Russell.
Well,
no doubt at all.
I would add to that, Simon. It's very easy to reach your targets when you keep moving them.
I was just going to say as well, the big tell for me is the fact that the question didn't ask anything about the ratings whatsoever, and then he decided to talk about the ratings. Yeah,
good point.
So John, you know, it's how can I put it? Cry more.
But don't you think, John? Don't you think just reading that, it just feels? I mean, in many ways, you know, I actually feel sorry for him because this comes across as so
very public.
Yeah,
so desperate. You know, when he literally says it's already up to 5.6 million and counting, so it is getting there. That sentence alone, so it is getting there. Getting where, Russell? That just feel. I feel really sorry for the bloke. Actually, I don't feel sorry for him.
I don't feel sorry for him.
But you know what I'm saying? This comes across as sheer desperation on his part.
Do you know what I'm going to say that I've never said before? But previous eras of Doctor Who, I'll be honest. Personally, I never gave a stuff about the ratings and the viewing figures, but because of all the cobblers that came out with prior to this series, I was like, you know what? I want to see this drop now. I'm invested in seeing the ratings drop each week, and I don't want to be that person.
No.
Nobody wants to be that person. We all want to be talking about how brilliant the show is. Like when you put up that picture down of Matt Smith, how lucky we were to have him as an actor, as a Doctor. I want to be talking about stuff like that, but sadly, these people bring it on themselves.
He has. David has put it on himself, and go on, Charlotte.
But it's like first it was like no, the overnights don't matter. Then it was like you have to look at the consolidated because of the iPlayer. You have to look at the consolidated. And now they're down the toilet. So now it's you have to look at the 28-day figure.
Yeah.
What show on the planet should I get excited that it's hitting nearly 6 million after 28 days?
Yeah. And as Daryl Joyce says in the chat, why do we have to juggle numbers, as Davey said?
Yes.
Yeah, good question. Why have you got to juggle these numbers to get them to...
Yeah, they used to call it fudging, didn't they? Cooking the books, however you want to make it. It's a sorry state of affairs, and I take no pleasure in this. I've largely enjoyed most of the season.
I've seen various memes this week and stuff sort of flying around where people are talking about when Shooting Outward kept coming out with he wants to do death drops. The Doctor needs a death drop dance move to, and everybody's saying, are these the death drops you were kind of thinking of? Because these look like death drops to me. I mean, it is killing the show. They're drops and they are killing their show. I mean, it's very sad to see. It's just tragic, so sad to see.
But was it just me? But watching this episode as well, when we've talked before about where the money goes and the production. When you saw those faces of the Doctors, was it just me, or did it just look badly rendered?
Well, it looked cheap and nasty.
Yeah, it's like for me when I saw Colin Baker at one point. And granted, I didn't have my glasses on at that point, but I thought that's a photo of Colin Baker from now. You know,
David in the live chat says, sorry, I'm not sorry for him. He's destroying what used to be a science fiction show with monsters. Now it's an activist melodrama. I hate to say there's only one way to sum it all up. With just 2 episodes left, we have to say anybody who's hanging in there, good luck. Good luck, everybody. We plucky few. The few that are left behind.
Do you know what else is amazing, actually, when you think about it, Dan, when you said there's only 2 weeks left? I can't believe we've only had, 6 episodes so far, and already we're all pretty much done with it, and so is the rest of the country. After only 6 episodes, they've killed it in 6 episodes. That's quite. You've got to hand it to them. That's quite some going, to be honest.
See, Shah says in the live chat, no one is asking you to get excited. You either watch it or you don't. Job done. I think that's a very pragmatic approach and something key to an individual. But they are kind of asking us to get excited in the hyperbole. Yeah. I feel, Shah, and some of it does. Some of it works with me. You know, in some ways, I'm a sucker for all of that stuff. I'm very receptive to it. I want to be wowed, and I'm happy to be wooed by the show.
People used to be excited. This is the difference.
And we do want to be excited. That's the point. We want to be excited again.
And the other point is that whole quote. It's like he starts off with, "Oh, the viewing figures aren't what we wanted." Okay, Russell, that's the closest of bit of sense you've spoken in a while. Yeah. And then he's trying to make it out to be a success. There's no doubt with the rest of that paragraph, it's, oh, we're hitting these targets, but we don't know what the targets are. Yeah. We don't know what the measure of success is that he's banging on about in that paragraph.
Yeah, but the BBC are going mad about it, so it's all good.
Yeah. So that's the point. He's trying to make it out to be a success. Yeah, that's what I meant, as in to get excited. Look, we're doing well. It's like, no, you're not, Russell. Yeah, you're killing. Yeah,
come and join the party because we've only got a couple of weeks left to go, and blah blah blah. Yeah. Doug Sims says, "I agree with you, John. I've been a fan since '63, but when the ratings dropped, I punched the air. Go woke, go broke." Well, you see, this is what it brings out in people. I would imagine that Doug takes no pleasure in that either. And Nathan Huggins drops this one. Dimensions in Time is better.
It's no worse. It's no worse. It has to be said. It's no worse.
It made more sense. It certainly made more sense. Look, here at Type 40 Live, we take no pleasure in any of this, but these are our honest opinions and takes and genuine conversation from real fans in the live chat there across YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X. All friends here, no judgment, and all opinions are definitely welcome. The Doctors throughout the decades have all endeared themselves to generations upon generations of not just kids, but families of mums and dads and cousins and everybody else. It's the show that brings families together. And okay, maybe it may not be eternal what is, but for now, I think there's still enough in Doctor Who at its core that there is no reason why it couldn't have been rejuvenated, reinvented and regrown in a way that would have grabbed the viewing public. I feel that they've misjudged key elements of this very, very badly, and it's the show, it's the intellectual property, and it's the fan base that are going to end up suffering the most if the series does end up taking an extended break from screens yet again. Speaking about breaks, I think now is a pretty good time for us to sorry, John. Time for us to slip away for one as well, and you can be wowed and consumed with the feeling of nostalgia for an era where TV adverts were often called the best things on TV. Golden faces and golden voices of Doctor Who legends from days gone by are here to flog you any manner of old tat here way, way back when. We'll see you back here in a couple of minutes.
Mr. Sharwood, can I have your esteemed opinion on my latest creation?
Delighted, Mr. Benedict. Succulent chicken, fenugreek, coriander, and fresh ginger. A perfectly excellent chicken korma. If you could deep freeze it, I'd take a few plates.
This way forward.
How deep do you want it frozen?
At last, authentic Indian food from the freezer.
If anyone would, Shar would.
I did hear, Gareth, that Nescafe is an original.
And absolutely exclusive.
It certainly is. Absolutely exclusive. Yes. The special blend and roast that gives you the richer, smoother Nescafe taste. Absolutely exclusive, Peter. In this one jar.
And nowhere else.
Just in this jar, eh? What a shame they only made the one.
Absolutely exclusive. Because Nescafe don't make coffee for anyone else.
Mrs. Turner, identify these pictures.
Thick and meaty in a rich sauce. Brains faggots. Or they're double faggot burgers. Rice with pineapple cubes. Sweet and sour faggots.
Hi. What other good food costs so little and lets you do so much? And here's your prize.
Use your brains. Save money.
Hey, is everybody back? Is everybody ready? This is Type 40 Live, covering all things Doctor Who, both on and off screen. Kicking off our second half here with the team in the TARDIS. Yes, got a live chat full of friends, fans and companions again there across YouTube, Rumble, Facebook and on X to get stuck into all things Doctor Who, both on and off screen.
Sorry, I'm just chuckling away because I'm just looking at some of these comments in the chat. I wonder whether there are some of our American viewers who have never heard the word faggots before. They're used in such a context. I was trying to work out what's people that last ad was not very PC, says TARDIS travels. No, the faggots are a real thing in the UK. They are a meaty ball.
Do you know what I was?
Food that, yes.
What have I was just come back to? Meaty balls.
What I was
shooting at was meaty balls.
What I was laughing at is how long have I been involved with Type 40? I'd never actually looked at the chalkboard. What Peter Capaldi had drawn on the chalkboard. I just not looked at the board.
I don't know
what you're talking about.
No idea. Yes, it's obviously it's not all about us and our rambles. Let's have your comments there in the live chat. We are looking ahead a little, not too far into the future. We're not quite sure where we're going to be in a couple of weeks' time when all new Doctor Who season 1 ends, but it does resume this weekend, and we're going to take a look at the prospects for the first of the 2-part season finale. Sutekh was still smiling, but then again, he does like to smile. He's always smiling about something. I'm not quite sure. I mean, we've just been looking at the ratings, haven't we, for the entire new series. I'm not quite sure that the viewers feel as happy as he does. Yeah, keep the comments coming in the live chat. It's all getting a bit carry on now, says Woodhouse 122. I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you mean. So yes, in the what else have we got? It's a spaceship. Is it? Which was a spaceship?
The fantastic.
It's the spaceship from Austin Powers.
They were on board a spaceship. Is that what he's saying? I get it. Yes. So as well as the return of Mel, as played by Bonnie Langford in the new series, a unit are also at hand as well, aren't they? Unit personnel assisting the Doctor to various degrees or another. Some are there helmeted and brandishing weapons and covered in padding, and others are plain clothes personnel. Some we've seen before, maybe a few to come that we haven't. Units are obviously an element of Doctor Who that have been around for well over 50 years, God, the best part of 60 years now. And this next iteration of them, of this team, this family, if you like,
useless. Sorry.
Well, the intention is, Russell has also said the intention is that they will be a mainstay of Doctor Who in this new era, and it does seem that they're going to be quite a big part of both halves of the season finale. So it begins this weekend with The Legend of Ruby Sunday. What a bloody awful title. But again, we had Legend of the Sea Devils not that long ago. We've got another legend already. But obviously, if they'd have worked things properly, we should be stirred by this, because Ruby is somebody that we've come to love, we've latched onto, which I think has been partly successful, but perhaps not in the way that they wanted. But looking down the cast list, obviously you see Sutekh, you see Millie Gibson, they're the regulars. But looking a little bit further down, there's someone else there too. There's a Corporal Sullivan, Simon Corporal Sullivan. Now, isn't that Harry Sullivan? Wasn't Corporal Sullivan
Is it going to be Harry Sullivan's son or daughter or something like that?
There is a Corporal Sullivan listed in the cast for this episode, and it does seem to be, unless Harry's gone back in time and gone for a drastic life change, this is Corporal Sullivan, as played by Yasmin Bays in The Legend of Ruby Sunday, coming this weekend. So I believe the Corporal Sullivan, this can't be a coincidence. Would you think this character could be some relation, Simon, to dear old Harry?
I would imagine it seems too big a coincidence unless they're just sort of throwing the name in purely for idiots like us to sort of get vaguely excited over.
It sounds like jangling keys to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They've done this before with Osgood, haven't they, John?
Yeah. To Unit now, do they just literally put them through a kindergarten program?
Nepotism is essential.
Yeah.
They're all about 12, it seems.
Yeah. You're 10 now, you're going to fire a gun, but only when we do it. Okay.
Obviously I noticed this right away. I'm not sure if anybody's picked up on it. It is, you see a name like Corporal Sullivan, it does bring back a lot of memories. Harry Sullivan was there. He wasn't on the TARDIS for very long, but was there for some seminal stories and moments during his time, wasn't he?
I love Harry.
So do I.
Don't do anything to tarnish the name of Sullivan, please. No.
What's the worst thing they could possibly do, Charlotte?
Oh, don't. It could be so many things. But no, it also makes sense because Kate's basically made it clear now. Anybody who's got any passing relationship or anything with the Doctor, she just gives them a job.
Yeah. So, basically, if the Doctor sneezed on you, you can be an admiral.
Yeah.
So she was talking about, Harry knocked around with the Doctor a bit. You could be a unit soldier. That's fine.
You don't have to do any tests, any exams. You don't have to do any training. You just give you a costume.
I don't know this actress, so she could actually be really good in the role. I don't have a clue
I
who
hope
this
so.
woman is. So I don't think you like. I'm just saying more story-wise. She's probably just going to be like, oh, Sullivan, that's enough of a name, you get a job.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that the actress is actually gives a good performance, because it would be nice to see a relation actually be a character we can sort of start to connect with and get that sort of link again, which would be lovely if they can pull it off.
Not going down too well in the live chat here on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook and X, John, I have to say. Lex Kane speculates maybe it's Harry's granddaughter, but there's a lot of people who I think feel similar to you guys, that we've seen this done before. It's kind of scraping the barrel a little for relations of anybody they can possibly get. And then there is obviously the fact that this Yasmin Bays, who may be a fabulous actress, obviously she's a non-white actress, and it does give the feeling of, it's kind of what you're saying about gay cast members as well, Simon. It's as if they're ticking off a box here, and that does talented people a great disservice.
Yeah, I would agree totally. I mean, there is an obvious reason why this particular actress doesn't immediately spring to mind as being an offspring of Harry Sullivan. And so why call her Sullivan? Why just call her something else? Call her something other than Sullivan. We are, of course, assuming that they are going to try and make some connection with Harry Sullivan. There might be no connection whatsoever. And I think it would be correct if there wasn't any connection. It makes sense.
Do you know what would be nice in Unit? If there was actually a decent male character.
You can't have a male character.
You're stretching reality a bit far here, Sarah. Come on.
Everybody in Unit is a woman now, except the Doctor. So predominantly most of the scenes in Unit, and you can look out for this when you watch it, it's going to be predominantly women. And it goes back, me and Charlotte have talked about this for yonks about ever since women have taken over UNIT, they've been useless. And it's like, what kind of message are you putting
Yes,
out
again,
the
it's counterproductive, Sarah.
I love this comment from bunch of Wallies watching on YouTube who says UNIT is now loose women with lasers.
You can imagine their advert though for recruiting to UNIT, and it's just like all of them in a picture, and it's going, at UNIT we're not just military, we're family.
Elizabeth Knightsbridge in the live chat also says, I'm sick of all these straight white English males in Doctor Who. Anyone would think the series was filmed in the UK or something.
I know, Elizabeth,
terrible.
It's terrible.
Terrible, absolutely terrible. It's sickening.
Simon, do they have training in DEI? Asks Paul Toastland.
Yeah, they do have training in DEI, is what he says. Yeah, I know, Paul, you're quite right. Of course they do.
It's the big bag in the season finale.
But seriously, I do think if Russell does want UNIT to be a mainstay, like he says, he needs to develop them. He needs to actually do some story work with UNIT as a whole. Like, what do they stand for? How do they work? And then, but honestly, and people know this, know me, I've not made this secret. I think Kate as a character has just stood still for the last 10 years. And this isn't just
literally.
No, you're right. It's such a pain.
Oh no, she ran away.
Yes.
Well, yeah, she did get danced with the toy maker, I suppose.
Yeah, she got to have a bit of a boogie, didn't she? It was almost like watching a hen night. Philip Roy says in the live chat, I remember when UNIT was staffed by old school soldiers smoking woodbines instead of the Hitler Youth.
It's a bit strong. Although, I mean, it is beginning to look worryingly like the Money Supermarket advert with you just need Dame Judi Dench somewhere lurking in the background. The characterisation in that advert is actually better than you getting in UNIT.
Judi Dench should be an amazing UNIT leader.
She'd be good as the brig.
Yes, did give it some M vibes. Obviously, we've got Shooty Gatwa in yet another new costume here. You know, we can't really complain about the leathers. It's been done before beautifully by Christopher Eccleston. But there is something. I've said it once. I'll say it again. There is something very Magic Mike about this. I think it's the boots, the belt. The jeans. It is as if he's about to, he just needs the studded cap and he's away, put hot chocolate on and it's off. It's all coming off.
From being at the meetup, I can categorically say that he doesn't pull off wearing a leather jacket as well as Simon Horton.
Yes.
I agree. It's the same jacket.
Actually, you're quite right. I was 2 weeks ago. I was rocking that look, Shooty. I got it there. I got there first.
You were slaying it. That's what I say at the moment. Slaying it. Bring back the army uniforms, please, Robert Payne. And those little berets, whether they're green or red, I don't care. Bring back the berets, for heaven's sake. Richard Brooks says, well said, Dan. What did I say? What did I say?
It was the Magic Mike comment.
All of it. Lots of fans of Harry Sullivan in the live chat.
Yeah,
of course there are.
Harry.
He's Harry Sullivan. Who doesn't love Harry Sullivan?
Yeah. Somebody said in the chat they're going to go mad if it's Harriet Sullivan that's the character. They wouldn't, would they? Tell me they wouldn't.
I like that one.
The table now.
There we go.
Just a quick aside about Harry Sullivan. My Zach recently watched Revenge of the Cybermen. He loves Revenge of the Cybermen. We've watched it before. And it's just to the joy of just hearing him walk. We shout around the house to each other, Harry Sullivan is an imbecile.
Do you think they'll do that one?
It is funny. It's funny how everybody latches onto that line, isn't it? Generation after generation when you come to watching Revenge of the Cybermen. Simon rocks every look, says Lord Thoth. There you go. I prefer him in the orange outfit, says Cinnamon Toast Crunch. So do I. It looks like we're only going to see him in that one scene, Charlotte, and I thought he looked good in it as well. It's distinctive. That's what each Doctor should be distinctive.
Yeah, I mean, I have to be honest. I do like the black leather jacket and the white T-shirt. I think it works very well. But you're right, Dan. You're right. It is yet again. It's a very sexualized image. It's the most sexualized outfit that we've probably seen any Doctor in ever, I would argue. Can't think of a more sexualized one.
Where will it all end? Of course, yeah. So the descendant, perhaps, of Harry Sullivan is about to to bear arms as a member of UNIT. Where will it all end? What does it mean for the Whoniverse? Speaking of the Whoniverse, last autumn, at the launch of the Whoniverse Hub at the BBC iPlayer, we were treated to a series of new presentations of classic stories, and they were all labelled up Tales from the TARDIS. Tales of the TARDIS, weren't they? So each story in the selection was prefaced, weren't they, with a new minisode featuring classic characters, doctors and companions from the classic era, called to this mysterious room, this console room, crammed with artifacts from earlier models of the Doctor's TARDIS. And they were evocative and they were fun, and we were promised more. And sure enough, last week, up on the iPlayer, they listed 2 brand new installments of this strand. So here they are. So we have we've got this one. This first one is dropping on June the 20th. So that's the day before the season finale of Doctor Who. That's there. And then there's another one. Is that the same one? No, it's the same one, sorry. So that's 2 broadcasts of the same one. But there are 2, I'm reliably informed, 2 new Tales from the TARDISes that are coming our way. So these went down quite well, didn't they, Simon, in the autumn, seeing those characters together like that, they went down very well indeed. For this one, it's slightly different. We've got a blurb for it now, and all it says in the blurb is that far away in time, on board an old, remembered TARDIS, the Doctor and Ruby pause in battle to reflect on their recent adventures. So that's, again, it's the current cast, not the old cast. Not like we got in those original ones. And it does seem to be, because people who are keen-eyed may have noticed, if you've been following all the trailers, there was far too many trailers for most people to keep track of. But in the UK trailer, we saw this scene of the Doctor screaming on the threshold of the TARDIS. Do you remember that? It's a very evocative image, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good image.
Yeah,
well,
I remember it, from the trailer.
Yeah, but in the Disney trailer, in one of the Disney trailers, instead we get this. So that's definitely the memory TARDIS from the Tales of the TARDIS minisodes, isn't it? Behind Shooty, and if you look behind, there's an orange blur as well, which does suggest that that's Mel there. So it looks like this was snapped out for the UK trailer to not give away any elements of the story of the finale. When you transpose them one on top of the other, it's the same scene, just with a new background and with the foreground, all special effects elements completely swapped out. So it does look like they're going that the memory TARDIS is going to be part of the show itself, and that this is going to tie into it. Is that where you're taking it?
Don't know. People in the chat are saying, "Are you sure these aren't repeats, Dan?" Because they're saying it's got repeat next to it. Oh,
yeah. The second listed one is the repeat showing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't know how this will work in the main show. It felt. I think I said at the time I wasn't really very keen on those Tales of the TARDIS anyway. I thought it was a fantastic idea, very poorly executed with quite shoddy cheap scripts, and I just didn't feel it worked at all. But whatever it was, that memory TARDIS was a gimmick. It was, at the end of the day, however canonical these might be, they were meant as sort of kind of just fun throwaway things to celebrate the anniversary. And the TARDIS,
and it was nice to see those actors again, wasn't it, in character together?
Brilliant, of course it was. It was fantastic. So although I criticised them, it's not serious criticism. I'm glad that they did them. But the TARDIS itself, the memory TARDIS, it felt very much just like a gimmick that worked purely for that particular sort of gimmicky kind of 5-minute setup. So to put it in the main show feels a bit. I just don't feel it'll work somehow.
I mean, apparently those Tales of the TARDIS, they were put together quite quickly, because Russell, if you remember last summer, he gave a quote, didn't he, saying he got to the point where he felt that he hadn't done quite enough for the anniversary. Yeah. And so they were kind of thrown together. And that set was a pre-existing one, John.
Yeah. I mean, there's 2 things, really. The first one, when the ratings are going down and people aren't invested in the main show, are they really going to be invested in going and watching one of these?
No.
I would, I agree with Simon. I would say no. The other thing that I would say is, did it say again the blurb that they pause in battle to tell stories?
Yes, right, yeah.
Why would you pause in battle to tell story?
Because it's convenient, John.
Because he's got to the edit in post-production and realised there's something important that he's probably forgot to tell.
Yeah.
And it's not going to work, but yeah, it's a bit...
No.
I can't see how it's going to work either. I think it's adding another barrier. It's not as bad as like the Marvel stuff, but like the Marvels where you had to watch this TV series and this TV series to understand what was going to happen. But you keep adding things. People aren't watching anyway, and now you've thrown up something extra that they've got to watch in between the finale. I can't see it. I could be wrong. You can tell me next week.
Sean is in the live chat and he points out that there are R's next to both of these. I think it's because it's repeated content within the body, so the bulk of it will be made up of, just like the other Tales of the TARDIS, stuff that we've seen before. So I think obviously it become more obvious.
I see, of course.
It'll become more obvious as it goes on. But you do wonder with that blurb, the Doctor and Ruby pause to reflect on their recent adventures. It's not unreasonable to think, because that sounds like a clip show. Do you remember that episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, Sarah, where Riker looked back on the episodes of seasons 1 and 2? It could be that sort of thing, but there's not really that much to reflect on.
What a
if they do that. Exactly. So I'm actually thinking that could be, because they have manufactured some of those blurbs before to make one thing look like another. If you remember the special of Confidential that revealed Matt Smith as the Doctor, that was billed as something completely different originally in the Radio Times over Christmas, if you remember.
Yeah.
I'm starting to wonder, this being positioned before that finale, if that's not key to something else as well. So what about if that's a fabricated press release of some sort? What about if it's all going to tie into something else that actually does fit the remit as established in that earlier run of Tales of the TARDIS? What about if the action on screen in this new episode does directly line up to a classic episode of Doctor Who? That's what's been on my mind, and one in particular. What about if it was, for example, the Pyramids of Mars?
Oh, I don't like the way this is going down. Stop now.
No.
What are you saying?
Because if you remember, so this time last year, they were wrapping up filming this finale that we're watching now. And Doctor Who fans being Doctor Who fans, they were all over the location filming for this finale, with various fans saying they could hear snippets of dialogue. And there were rumours whipped up right away that the villain of the piece could be Sutekh.
What?
Sutekh, also known as Sutekh the Destroyer. I know that I've got no need to remind you about that, Simon, a classic Doctor Who villain from the 1976 story, The Pyramids of Mars. In fact, this was my earliest ever memory of Doctor Who. This story, Sutekh is a colossal villain who was only featured in that one story, wasn't he? And a character that may not have cast the long shadow that somebody like the Black Guardian has, but it was such a memorable performance, such a striking visual look, and the nature of Sutekh as well, because he was a siren, wasn't he? And the idea was that he'd been trapped, hadn't he, for hundreds, thousands of years. Remind us, Simon, what the premise behind that was.
Yeah, basically, he wasn't a siren, and he'd been chased down by his brother Horus, because there's that wonderful line from Pyramids of Mars when Sutekh says, "Wherever I go, I leave nothing but death and destruction. I find that good." And he's a really evil bastard, this bloke. There's nothing good. There's nothing redeemable about Sutekh. And so Horus trapped him in a pyramid on Earth, with the key, the lock, being building a pyramid on Mars, hence the pyramids of Mars, and that's where he's kept. And for anybody that hasn't seen Pyramids of Mars, I won't spoil the ending for you because it's one of the best. And if you haven't seen it, you have to go and watch Pyramids of Mars.
These rumours have never gone away. I gather it's news to you, Simon, but there's been chatter about it in various forums solidly for a year. And I have to be honest, initially, I thought it was something that Russell T Davies had put out. Do you remember, Sarah, how he said he promised he was going to leak some things that were deliberately going to put us off on the wrong track?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that sounds like Russell. No,
I couldn't see how they could run the risk of not including the Daleks in this season, it being pretty much make or break. But it does seem like the evidence is gathering in favour of this being Sutekh in the season finale.
I have a question though, everybody. This is supposed to be a brand new reboot. Why are we bringing
It's Doctor
back...
Who. Because it's Doctor Who.
Yeah, but he said he's chased away all the old fans. He don't want the old fans. He wants new fans. He wants kids. He wants people.
Yeah, good point.
Don't watch Doctor anymore. He wants people that watch Bridgerton.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
why
good
would
point.
you have a past? This isn't like most
I
people
don't. I think
know
that could be. I think it could be a little harsh. I think he wants. Yes, he wants to sort of chime with popular sensibilities and popular culture as it is now.
I think maybe the point that Sarah's making is if you're going to bring back Sutekh, why turn your back on some of the other classic stuff that he has insisted on turning his back on? If you're going to bring Sutekh back, you might as well bring back the Daleks and the Cybermen.
I think it's because he loves Pyramids of Mars so much, but then again, which fan doesn't?
Yeah, who does? I have a horrible feeling. Is this where Susan Twist comes into it? Then is Susan not Susan at all? She's Sutekh.
Well, there's two rumours basically flying about.
I know. I'm with you, John. I'm weeping already. Sorry, Charlotte.
There's two rumours. Like basically, with the tiny little breadcrumbs we've got of Ruby's backstory, I think it was in The Devil's Cord. Jinx said something to the effect of, "He was there when you were born." So an inference of there being this mythical, powerful he being there when either she was born or when she was dropped off at the church. Can't remember exactly, but that was the big thing that a lot of fans sort of said, okay, what's a big powerful figure that we know who could fit that sort of image? And the fact that when in Boom they tried when she was dying, they couldn't find her next of kin. So there is, to me, from what the little he has given us, she does seem to have a supernatural origin or something beyond human is going on.
And even some sort of latent supernatural ability, because she can seem to physically manifest snow in her surroundings when she gets taken back, when her memory gets taken back wherever, when certain emotions are kind of triggered with her, that's how it seems to be working.
Yeah, like when they talk about that night and it just like in the middle of the battlefield, you can see it there. Snow should not be happening. So like I said, there's something supernatural. There's something extraordinary there. So that's the Sutekh rumour. And then there is a rumour about Susan Twist, which if that's also true, that is once again Russell borrowing other people's ideas. He's using other people's ideas. If what I've seen the fan chatter about is Susan could be a human TARDIS. And so fans have said that was sort of bandied around in the wilderness.
Yeah, there was in one of the I think it was the Paul McGann Ranger books, a character called Compassion was a human TARDIS. John, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But if I can just say about what this Sutekh rumour, a few things. The first one is, if he does it, I'm going to be like Liam Neeson in Taken. I have a particular set of skills and I will find him. And I will track him down. Okay. The second thing I would say is, that's my favourite story of all time. You cannot, I don't know why you would bring it back, because you can never top it. You know.
Oh, Russell can, because he does everything better than everybody else, John. You forget.
The third thing I would say about that is Sutekh, where they've teased about, the one who waits and there's minions. Sutekh wouldn't have minions. Yes, he had the robots to escape. But once he's free, he doesn't care about minions. He's just going to wipe everybody out. So I don't get that as well. I was going to go back to the memory TARDIS, Dan, and I was going to say, when you showed me that image and Mel is clearly in the background, I did think to myself, is this a bait and switch and he's going another direction? And I did think, could it be the Veil Yard? Because Mel came face to face with the Veil Yard, you know, and they're going to talk back about a classic story. So that'll be a story she's involved with, and Shooty's there talking to her about it as well.
Either way, he's on thin ice. I mean, David's here in the live chat who says, oh no, I'm scared he could ruin the best story, the best villain in Doctor Who. And people are very, very scared about this prospect. Susan Twist has appeared obviously in every episode of Doctor Who, stretching right the way back through this series and in the Christmas special. And she was even in Wild Blue Yonder, the second of the 3 of those 60th anniversary specials last year. So this actress, not a household name at all, one of those faces you've seen in various places. She was in Brookside, Emmerdale. She's done lots of those kind of things, lots of drama shows, Peak Practice, all those kinds of drama. She's been around a very, very long time in these character parts, and I think she's been actually a lot of fun in her various roles throughout this season. A welcome presence, and I think this has been okay. I'm fine with this. I think I'm not as intrigued as Russell T Davies seems to think I should be. And he's all over social media. Of course he is. He's over there on Instagram, bigging it all up at the moment. Who is she? Every episode, she's there. Isaac Newton's housemaid, a heckler in the pub, and he goes through a list of all these things. And now Susan Triad, tech entrepreneur. So this is obviously the character she's going to play in the finale. This week, answers in big letters, 2 hearts and a cross. Or is it a plus? 2 hearts plus? 3 hearts.
I think it's fairly obvious just looking at that what's going to happen here, because if you look at her name, it's S Triad, isn't it? Yeah. What's S Triad an acronym for?
TARDIS.
There we go.
That's why the fans have been saying they think we're going to get a human TARDIS.
Oh, okay. So that's already doing the rounds.
There is another image as well of Susan Twist in character. This has been officially released by the BBC as well. That's very grim, very Game of Thrones. The Winter King in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Doesn't Sutekh have a dog's head?
Well, a jackal head. Yeah, but yeah. But I mean, we don't know if it is Sutekh yet. And
what's in the background?
Ooh, an icy backdrop. It looks like. It looks like a frosted.
I have to say, it looks really, really good. And so I'm just left kind of thinking, this is too little, far too late to save Doctor Who. This should have been episode 1, maybe.
Matthew Pounder says a gender swapped Frosty the Snowman. Could it be? And the talents of Wayne Chiang there in the live chat is also putting the pieces together. Spot on, John, says David.
Thank you.
What did you say, John? Doesn't matter. Go with it anyway.
It was clearly fantastic.
Of course it was. Cinnamon Toast Crunch says, we're still waiting for this character we were promised would appear from the 4th Doctor's era. He did say that. It's all, I'm afraid that it's all lining up, and there are other things. There are other things as well. Now, on Saturday just gone during Rogue, Charlotte, I know that you're all swept up in the romance, weren't you? You were very, very moved by this. I could tell by how you were speaking earlier.
With it. I was so not wanting to turn off every 5 minutes.
The poor girl was a total mess. So you may not have noticed that during this scene. Do you remember this scene in the TARDIS?
Yes, the one scene when they actually had them in a room talking. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you remember, the Doctor's there talking and flicking a few switches, very kind of unconvincingly. Shooty, come on, play the game, step it up. So he's doing that, and the TARDIS is making a grumbling noise. Do you remember that, Simon? Did you see that bit?
No, didn't see it.
So as he's doing this and as he's talking and sort of coming on to Rogue there in the background, as he's doing that, the TARDIS is making some grumbling sounds that we haven't really heard. We haven't really heard for a while. I mean, I love it when the TARDIS goes dark. It's gone dark before. It looked amazing in Enlightenment, but with the grumbling as well, that also brings to mind a certain scene from the Pyramids of Mars where Sutekh does his head does manifest, doesn't it, inside the TARDIS, and there's that similar kind of crunching, grumbling, rumbling noise. So that's another thing.
And of course, let's not forget that Gabriel Wolfe, who did the original voice of Sutekh, is still alive and worked on Doctor Who back in The Impossible Planet and The Satan Pit. And
he was employed in that story precisely because Russell was such a big fan of his. So, he said, I want a voice, didn't he? I think I've read an interview with him as regards that story saying, I wanted a voice like Gabriel Wolfe's.
Correct.
So they went,
and they checked. And he was still available. Yeah, spot on, Dan. That's exactly what happened.
And Gabriel Wolfe is still with us now, all these years on from the Satan Pit. He's 91 years of age. So could Gabriel Wolfe be back as well? Check the cast list for anybody, any anagrams of Gabriel Wolfe. So the evidence is I feel it's kind of mounting up. I mean, do you want some more? Do you want? Is anybody wiggling the bell? So we've all seen this. We've had this up on screen all year.
I'm so seen that smiling face. I really am sorry.
Well, in this instance, look behind him because that swirly vortex there.
Stop it!
Could that be the time corridor?
Oh my life! It is the Sutekh time corridor.
If Shooty's smiling like that, Sutek's clearly running away, isn't he? Get out of it! Get out of my time corridor!
Because spoilers for the 50-year-old Doctor Who story here. That's how it ends, isn't it? The Doctor and Sarah trap Sutekh in a time corridor for 7,000 or so years. Eternity.
Yeah, so many years. But he's still alive, and theoretically he does get to the end of time. It will take him a very long time to get there, but he will apparently get to the end of time. So he isn't actually killed. Sutekh isn't killed at the end of Pyramids of Mars. It is possible. How terrible.
We remarked when all this key art first appeared that it was more diversity, more rainbows, more of the wokery in this imagery, and it never looked right to me. It never looked like a rainbow to me. It looked like it was something else. Generally speaking, obviously I didn't realise that then, but I think now that is the same colour scheme, albeit 50 years on, zhuzhed up.
Yeah. I'll give you that.
It will be interesting if it is Sutekh, because we'll see how Russell writes. Because I actually quite like the Toymaker, to be fair. I liked the sort of the treatment and the way that he wrote, and that was an old classic villain he brought back. So we will see. I think we'll learn that more. And I'm going to have to go.
I don't think he's
bye.
So much excitement, Charlotte.
I want to leave you with this image, Charlotte. Sutekh coming down the time corridor, singing "Walk Like an Egyptian."
Oh yeah, you know that's going to happen, right? Predict that. There we go. Let's see whose story's right over the next 2 weeks, everybody.
We'll catch up with you in a few days, Charlotte.
See you soon.
Good night. Thank you. Bye-bye. Sand everywhere in this image that we've seen across all the trailers. Very impressive scene. This is the Christopher Nolan scene that we've talked about before. Yet more Egyptian stuff, Simon. Sand everywhere.
I see where you're going with, Dan. I have to be honest, to see where you're going with it.
Yeah.
The evidence is mounting up, and I think finally the fact that the actual finale is called Empire of Death, and if you remember back in the original story, Sutekh is the Lord of Death, or was the Lord of Death, according to his familiar there.
Wherever he treads, he leaves nothing but death and destruction.
Bit like Russell T Davies. So, is this a convincing case?
Watch this. It really does almost make me want to watch this. But I just know that if it is Sutekh, I'll just ruin him.
Yeah, he's not able to make a character that has got that very, very subtle, sinister, quiet. The way he talks, Sutekh. It'll be hammed up to 11.
Let's give Russell his due. The devil in the Satan Pit was kind of written well.
Yes.
Other villains that we've seen, the villain in Midnight in particular.
Russell didn't write that episode though, Dan. It was Matthew Jones.
No, yeah, I know, but he is quite insistent that he used to rewrite everybody, didn't he? He used to punch up a lot of the scripts. But I'm thinking of Midnight. And the villain in that story, who obviously goes, it's a sort of formless creature. I liken Sutekh more to a character like that being something ancient. So I think Russell can or could write characters like that.
He could. That's the key word there, Dan. He could. I think John's right. I think he's incapable now.
In this, Russell,
You can't do it now, I don't think. I don't think he has that degree of subtlety left. I don't think he has a subtle bone left in his body, unfortunately.
Lex Kane reminds us when it comes to Gabriel Wolfe, he has a movie type trailer voice. I know what you mean. Throaty movie trailers, voicing all of those. I'd say this is starting to look pretty likely. Clearly, the Daleks aren't back. I think they'd have publicised that by now. I think we'd see the new Daleks trundling around on a magazine cover or something, Sarah. We would, wouldn't we?
I think we would, yeah. It just fills me with horror. I'm not going to watch, but more than this, why if this happens, why this era? David Tennant, Christopher Eccleston, Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi against Sutekh. Oh my God!
Yes,
I don't want to see Sutekh against that grinning idiot.
I agree.
I
agree with you, Sarah. I would say also this season, right? If it is Sutekh for me. And I'm never going to get what's in my head since I've been growing up. But I always thought you could do an entire season run if it was Sutekh. And he's so powerful, you're having to form alliances with different races to take him on. So you could have the Daleks, you could have the Cybermen, because it's all in everybody's interest because he's that powerful. But never going to get that, are we?
Because as formidable, I'd argue that Tom Baker's Doctor is the most formidable of them all. And due to the fact that Tom played it so well, he was arguably at the height of his powers. Then the Doctor is really pushed to the very limit by Sutekh, isn't he? He's afraid of Sutekh, but pushes through anyway, and obviously triumphs. So this is a really, really big character.
It is. The problem is that because, as you've described Sutekh there, Dan, Sutekh would not sit well in this current iteration of the show. I just feel
certainly the show that we've been watching this last 6 weeks. He would seem an anachronism, wouldn't he?
It's a terrible anachronism, as Stephen Braddock says in the chat. Gatwa will death drop Sutekh to death, and it's that kind of thing. And we're back to your walk like an Egyptian set. Literally, are we going to see in Unit HQ the same as we saw in the Giggle, that they will literally end up doing, the Sutekh dance, where we get this big song and dance routine with the Doctor and Sutekh? I wouldn't put it past Davis at this stage, and that terrifies me.
I wouldn't mind it if it was earlier in the season and you've got this woman turning up, but it'd been more sinister. So it's the servant of Sutekh. So the Doctor doesn't know, because obviously with that first story like that, that's the servant of Sutekh.
Ashen faced, just like Marcus Scarman is.
Yeah, he needs no other, and then start steaming them.
That would make absolute sense. But the problem is, again, as you say, Dan, I don't think anybody's as excited as Russell thinks we should be by the Susan Twist business, which is like, oh, come on, just get on with it. It's not an interesting enough storyline yet to get any attention from us. I really don't care less who Susan Twist is. I'm sick to the back teeth of hearing Susan Twist's name. I'm sick of seeing the face. I don't care at this stage. Just get on with it and do it.
It does feel a bit thin, doesn't it? And she's been great in all those little scenes. She's really shown it's a great show reel for an actress's range. Fly Highland says here that BBC just released a clip 5 hours ago called "Who Is She?" That says the picture of Susan isn't Sutekh, it's a griffin from planet Varsity. Fly Highland, I have no idea what you mean, but I'm going to go and find out later on. Of course I will. Or it could be the time lash corridor in that picture, speculates Will Hadcroft.
So it is the Bandrels. They are back.
That would be heavenly. Sutekh's daughter revenging her father, says Matthew Pounder.
Yeah, so Matthew Pounder also says Sutekh's cleaning lady, which I like enormously.
Just stain them pyramids.
Cleaning all the dust up.
Lex Kane says, I hope it's not Pyramids of Mars all over again. Nothing beats the original Fourth Doctor encounter. And who could disagree? Who could disagree with that? This is a seminal story. If Sutekh kills the 15th Doctor, I might take a look.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, actually, Jack. I have to be honest.
And Sean, at Review It Yourself, says, is Sutekh our saviour, John?
Do you know what I'll say as well? Which with these episodes upcoming, if these are absolutely superb knockout episodes, and I enjoy them, I will look back now and I'll go, "What a waste the season was." You know, if you can do these two that are superb, you should have done it for the rest of the season, and that would be my take from this season. Really, it is like Simon said, it's too little, too late. I mean, a lot of the viewing public are probably just they probably haven't even picked up on any of this, have they? You know,
well, they've turned off mostly.
It's doubtful. I think they may have spotted the same woman there, if only for the fact that they're used to Doctor Who doing stuff like that. But it won't have broken any spells for them. I don't think it would have set anybody's world on fire. I think that's there largely for the fans, or if not for literally for the fans of Doctor Who, Sarah, for the kind of fans who've been following shows over the last 10, 20 years when arc storytelling has really taken off. And it's a way of trying to please everybody. I think it's been quite nice and quite harmless, and I like the fact. I actually like the fact that it's a bit naff, because let's be honest, Bad Wolf was a bit naff. It was just one word in every episode. It was a bit homespun. It was very sweet. Oh, they're trying to do the thing. I kind of like it to be a little bit, I don't know, thin and fun. I think it's fun. Oh, it's her. It's fun. But I do feel for Susan Twist, because her name is all over the place, and she's not out here giving interviews and things.
I think I agree with you, Dan. I like these little things dropped in, and Bad Wolf worked well. The difference with the Susan Twist thing is it has just been so in your face. Bad Wolf was handled very, very subtly. They only started talking about it about 3 episodes from the end of the season, kind of thing. Whereas Susan Twist, we have been hit over the head with it.
See, we feel it's been in our faces and it's been obvious all the way through. But I honestly, sincerely don't know if members of the general public.
No, but I don't mean in the show. I mean in all the stuff that people are talking about outside the show.
Oh,
the press keep on talking about it. I'm fed up of reading about it in the mainstream press. They're going on about it.
Well, I think it's a want. I think in the culture that we live in now, partly because of what we're doing here, content creation, when people have got their own brand and everybody puts their opinion out there, and there's a certain amount of kudos to be acquired, Sarah, from being, I said that 3 months ago. I said that 6 months ago. I said that 9 months ago. I spotted her right away. It's a little bit like that. They want all these websites, online publishers, and content creators, just like us. We're no different. We're no better. We're no worse. Everybody wants to make sure that we know, that they know, and they saw. What do you think, Sarah?
There is the element of like competition and like bragging rights. But to be honest, Dan, I feel sorry for Anita Dobson. Where's that mystery gone?
Yeah, good point. She's dropped in favour of Susan Twist, isn't she?
It's funny you should say that, because it was all about her those first few weeks. She was the one who got the break in the fourth war moments at Christmas that did get everybody talking. And yet, has anybody given her a passing thought in the last 4 or 5 weeks?
We've got this big starlight, Anita Dobson, but it's Susan Twist that everybody, this other actress that everybody's talking about. That's quite funny.
Well, yeah, because the whole thing about the Anita Dobson character, there was supposed to be so much depth there, and there was things that there was a mystery there, as you say, Sarah, that was all going to be revealed, and it was going to get deeper and more intriguing. And we haven't seen a single hair on her head since, have we?
We haven't. Russell has been stepping it up in Anita Dobson's favour this week, and he said this on Instagram again. Mrs. Flood in Cherry Sunday's bedroom. What? Why? How? Leave her alone, in big letters. This weekend, Doctor Who, The Legend of Ruby Sunday, first of the finale, in which truths are told, secrets are revealed, and horror is unleashed. And then draws attention to the fact that Anita Dobson and Angela Winter, who are playing Mrs. Flood and Cherry Sunday, are both kind of EastEnders icons. One was Angie Watts, of course, during the 80s. And Angela Winter's in it now. Again, isn't she playing Yolandi Truman? She's been in it off and on for the last 20 years. And again, fabulous actress. I'm sure this will be great. But it does. It makes you wonder, have they deliberately kept those two characters apart, Mrs. Flood and whoever Susan Twist is? Are they going to...
But again, who cares? This is the problem. Yeah. They haven't, over the 6 weeks, they just haven't engendered any excitement or any momentum into this. So we're all saying it. We don't care.
CTC says here, it's too many plot threads all at once, which is kind of right, John. And yet, by the same measure, it's too much, but not enough at the same time. How the hell has he managed that?
I know. And I was just going to say as well, you can see that one of these threads is going to jump over into season 2 because they've already filmed.
I'd say so.
That's what I would say. But for the finale, when we were talking about earlier, some characters that have been announced from it, they're not. He tries to cram so much into these finales that not everybody's going to get justice, are they? You know, it's just not going to happen. So hopefully.
Well, I don't think it'll matter, John, because nobody will be watching anyway. So
nobody will be watching. Nobody will be watching when Shoot is doing his little "I'm a little teapot" thing there.
That's what defeats Sutekh.
Oh dear, yeah. Give me the loving, Sutekh. No. So what do you think there? We've got so many comments about this in the live chat there across YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X. How do you feel about this? We are approaching that finale. Could Russell have gone back to the series golden period? I think it's called the golden age of TV, isn't it? That 1972, 73 to about 80. At the very, very most, has he gone back there? He's vocally told us several times how much he loves the Pyramids of Mars. Everybody loves it. He has cast Gabriel Wolf before. There's all this imagery. There's all that sand. Is this a done deal? Is it a dull deal? Probably. Is it a done deal? Let us know what you think there in the comments, because we're all eyes and ears. Are you stirred by this and can't wait for the Legend of Ruby Sunday coming this Friday and Saturday? A brand new, how many episodes? 7th episode of just 8 of this season of Doctor Who. So it premieres on Disney Plus over the world. They're streaming. That's at whatever time, depending on where you are in the world, doesn't it? So that's on Friday, the 14th of June, then on BBC iPlayer at midnight, Saturday, the 15th of June, and screens very finally on BBC One later that evening. We will be reviewing each episode in full, in time. Keep watching and listening for our reviews across all podcatchers and the home feed for that. But make sure you've got your notifications on as well, because there are one or two things coming that we're working on. So you're going to make sure that YouTube hasn't unsubscribed you, or make sure that you're subscribed to us here at Type 40. And nearly the end. What have you got to say about this, Peter? Yeah. We get it. It has been a bit of a bumpy ride. It's only fair to say, but there's a couple to come, and who knows, things may turn around. Let us know what you think there in the live chat. Yeah, maybe. just maybe.
So you went into a phone box with a mobile phone. They phoned me, it was raining. It was pouring rain, that's why. So I went there to get so went into a phone box and you had a mobile.
To cry in private.
I was hoping it was a TARDIS. Swat. I know,
Yes, you're watching Type 40 Live here with you across Rumble, X, YouTube, and on Facebook too, where we're digging into the past, the present, and the future of Doctor Who in no sensible order. The the possibility that Doctor Who could be returning to the golden era and unearthing one of the Doctor's nastiest of foes. You say, Simon, he's not the most, not the nicest of blokes, is he? That sent a shiver through our live chat there of dedicated Doctor Who fans quaking at the thought of what Russell T Davies could be about to do to Sutekh if that is going to happen. I think we need nourishment. We need the certainty of genuine gold that hit hard and hit well with the viewing public and with us as fans, and that's endeared itself to us over the decades. Happily, there's a whole chunk of that. There's a massive volume of it, page after page, chapter after chapter, in the Doctor Who diary, isn't there, Simon? Have you got it to hand?
I have, as it happens. It's just here.
Marvellous. Yeah.
And here it is. Here is the diary.
Already, Simon.
Here's the diary. So we're unclipping it. We're opening it up. Here we go. Yes, welcome to the Doctor Who Diary for this week, where we look back on what was happening in years gone by. This week, so sort of the second week of June, 17 new episodes were screening in days gone by. 1969. You would have been sitting down to the War Games episode 9, so we were coming up to that big finale. So we had, I mean, I'd love to have been there.
Another big finale.
Imagine that's how you write a cliffhanger. That is when the Doctor's called on the Time Lords, and they're coming, and it's all hell is about.
And it goes into slow motion, doesn't it? And there's a crash. Oh,
as they're trying to get up to the TARDIS to escape. It's cracking. So anyway, episode 9. Coming up to the grand finale in 1969. Now, here's one that we can't talk about either, unfortunately, because we have no time. 2007, Utopia was on. Now, that was in the day. Doctor Who, New Who, was at its absolute height at that point. I remember just thinking Utopia was a cracking episode. And again, fantastic. Just a cliffhanger to end all cliffhangers. That was that. Come on, Russell T Davies. That's how you do New Who.
That 7 days couldn't go fast enough. It was an extraordinary time to be a fan.
Absolutely. Under RTD's watch, he was able to run the show at that point. 2008, Midnight. We talked about it a few minutes ago. Midnight was on this week back in 2008. Cracking episodes. None of them we can talk about. But first of all, I'm going to actually go back to 2006. First of all, in the diary, for very, very specific reasons, because we've just been talking at enormous length about Pyramids of Mars and Gabriel Wolf. And that's because back in 2006, 18 years ago, you would have been sitting down to the Impossible Planet, to the Satan Pit, episode 2 of the Impossible Planet, Satan Pit two-parter. By remarkable coincidence. Honestly, we don't just throw these things together, do we? It's like we plan it. But yeah, it by remarkable coincidence, having talked about Gabriel Wolf just now, the Satan Pit was screening back in 2006, exactly 18 years ago. I always think we've talked about The Black Hole, the film The Black Hole on the podcast a few times, on the show a few times. It's one of my favorite films of all time. John, I know you love it too. This story always reminds me very much of The Black Hole, not least because there is a black hole in it, but it's very telling because Sanctuary Base 6 is in effect the Cygnus hanging in space on the event horizon of the black hole. And I always think a lot of the design work is very sort of black hole orientated. I'm sure that's largely sort of coincidental, but it just reminds me of the black hole. Here's the thing: the Ood, which of course are set front and center in the Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit, were originally going to be the Slitheen. That was the original thoughts. That the plan was not to create a new monster. It was to go with the Slitheen. And then, quite rightly, I think they kind of figured that the Slovene were just a bit too sort of comical, a bit too silly.
Yeah, I love the Slovene, but I think that would have killed this story stone dead. I didn't
Yeah.
knew that.
Yeah.
Because the money was running out, wasn't it? So they needed
Correct.
the cheap monster, which is why we get all the
Wouldn't have the same
tendrils.
tension.
Yeah.
That's right, Sarah. That's right.
Nothing
That's why you get the
horrible.
tendrils, so they didn't have to do mouths. That's why you get the tendrils. The
Oh.
ood, that's purely the reason. So that they, as Sarah says, because money was running out, and they started to need to do things cheap, and that's why the masks are quite sort of basic. And the ood, of course, I talked about as coming from near the sense sphere, which is the planet in the sensorites. And ood was kind of a sort of a joke on the word odd, because they're quite odd aliens. And it's interesting because this story was made to, I don't know whether you guys can remember this. I can certainly remember this very well. There was a lot of criticism going around series 1 that it was almost entirely Earth-based and there were no alien planets.
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
Do you remember that? That was a real thing at the time.
It was my only criticism. It was personally my only criticism of series 1. Really.
People did moan. People really wanted to see an alien planet.
I was so swept up in it that I didn't really do much moaning at the time, but I do remember getting to the end of it and thinking, but by that time.
It was talked about a lot. And so this story was a direct result of that. It was a reaction to that. And of course, beautifully, it's the first time that New Who uses a quarry for filming. Yes. Russell T Davies was apparently reportedly not best pleased about using a quarry because he was adamant. Do you remember again, back at the very, very beginning, he was adamant they will never be filming in quarries.
Yeah.
That didn't last long.
It didn't last long. You got into series 2, so he wasn't necessarily impressed. I have to be honest. I think he's being far too harsh. I think the film, the location filming is just magnificent, and the way they film it at night as though it's inside a planet. Yes. It's just. I just think it's magnificent. I still think this is one of the best stories of New Who. I
absolutely agree, Simon. I think it. For me, this is the most perfect story of that season.
Yeah.
Possibly one of the strongest.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize this at the time because obviously I came to Classic Who afterwards.
Yeah.
But this really felt so much like Classic Who. Not only have you got the quarry, you've got your classic base under siege.
Yes,
plot,
correct.
And everything just felt like like Classic Who, and I was kind of gobsmacked having gone back and watched previous series, how kind of like faithful it was. It did feel like it was paying homage, but also doing its other thing. And again, the writing. So whether whether it was Russell or Matthew or a combination, this explored big ideas. You've got everything with the black hole, solid science fiction.
Yes,
and then you'd also got the questions of religion, faith, whether the devil was real, just really mind-blowing concepts. Yeah. Again, I don't think I'd been at this point. It hadn't been explored in New Who the way it had with Classic Who. It was a very mature two-parter.
Yes, it's very, very mature. And you're right. Do you remember again the endless discussions about? Is it Satan? Is it not Satan? That the production team wouldn't be drawn on it. It was just it just felt tantalizing to sort of have these thoughts about is this Satan? It was beautifully done, and as somebody just said in the live chat there that you don't need Disney money to do good production values. The production values in this are as good as Doctor Who has ever seen, as far as I'm concerned, bar
because
none.
Russell T Davies is an atheist, isn't he? He used to speak about it quite a lot. I don't think he talks about it as much as he used to.
He talks about other stuff these days, doesn't he?
And I will retract what I said earlier because you brought this up as an example, Dan, because you knew this was coming, you crafty so-and-so. You're right about the subtle monsters, because that bit when you're getting to that point where there's possession and you hear the whispering, don't turn around, and that's that straight away. I was like, that's that creepy thing when you're in bed.
Yes,
you think, is someone there? don't turn. It's so well done, really.
And this is really dark stuff. I mean, that alone says it all. That image there. This is dark stuff, and so I still. This is where I said, an hour ago, that my heart is breaking at the moment with Doctor Who, because this to me is Doctor Who. This is what I fell in love with back in the 70s, and this is what I still love about Doctor Who. This is what I still want. I don't want some big dance number in Unit. I don't want grinning. I want darkness like this. And let's not forget, the public were in love with this show at this point. They didn't need...
They were, and I think with this, from what I remember, and I haven't watched this for quite a while, but with this story, they delivered something which some sections of the fan base had got it into their heads that they would never be brave enough to do.
Yes.
Something that was, if not horrific, then certainly dark and gothic and intense and claustrophobic weighty
really,
in the way that you say, Sarah.
It was really unsettling, and this was the very first Doctor Who story that freaked me out. I mean, I wasn't a kid. I was like 19, 20 at this point, but it was genuinely unsettling because of Gabriel Wolf's voice.
Yes.
And how it was presented, the Ood of the Red and the possession, and a lot of in the second episode, the Satan Pit, there's a very like alien-esque thing, with in the air ducts when they're crawling to escape, and it is really thrilling. You get that sense of, intensity, like Dan was just saying.
It is very, very intense, and there's no good outcome on this. A lot of good people die quite nastily in this story. And again, as I say, to put it in context, the public were in love with the show, so they can handle dark, serious, claustrophobic, intense stuff. I think this is potentially one of the most, if not the most, intense Doctor Who stories of New Who. And
it has to be up there.
It was huge. The show was absolutely huge in the UK at this point.
Will Hadcroft is in the live chat, and he says that everyone talks about Doctor Who at work on Monday morning during these years.
Yeah. It's all good. It was good time. Sorry, John.
Sorry, no, I was just going to say the only time I would say that possibly something came close to matching this darkness was probably Waters of Mars for me.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
But this feels much darker to me simply because of the gravity of the fact that we've potentially got Satan here. So it scores. Yeah. It's just the sheer scale of this. Interestingly, just to go off on one for 1 second, it might not have had quite the scale that it would have done. There is rumours that, believe it or not, the original person they were considering for the voice of the Beast was not Gabriel Wolf. It was Chris Evans. I kid you not.
Chris Evans.
The Chris Evans that was married to one Billy Piper. Apparently, Chris Evans at one point was who they thought was going to do the voice of the Beast until
the Big Red Devil.
Rather wonderfully, they realised no, actually, they probably needed somebody that sounded more like Gabriel Wolf. So found him in the phone book. You can't imagine, can you? That would clearly not have worked.
I love how every time we mention Chris Evans on this show, Americans, God bless you Americans, all say Captain America.
No, not like Chris Evans. Not the good-looking Chris Evans.
No.
Not so good-looking Chris Evans, if we're honest.
I've got an image in my head now of our Chris Evans playing Captain America. Maybe,
maybe I got it wrong. Maybe it was the American Chris Evans that they were considering, and it's me that's got it wrong this time, and it's not the Radio 1 Chris Evans at all.
Matthew Pounder suggests that he'd be voiced by Dale Winton today. Sadly, Dale Winton passed away a few years ago.
We'll see where you're going with it, Matthew.
Alan Carr.
So the Impossible Planet, the Satan Pit. 18 years. 18 years. Can you believe it, Sarah? 18 years.
I know. Where's the time gone?
I know,
Can I just say, and also every supporting character was brilliant in this. They all had a part to play. And did you notice, Simon, as you were doing your research, that it was a diverse cast, but it was never mentioned?
Spot on.
Yep.
Isn't it funny that we had it even back in the day? We did have a diverse cast. We just didn't need to make a song and dance about it. Interesting, isn't it?
The Captain Zachary, which I believe he's come back into Big Finish, John. Is that right? I think I've seen him pop up in other things.
A couple of the characters I think they've used in Big Finish out of this. Claire Rushbrook's character, I believe, is also in some. Could be wrong.
Well, I mean, it gives some indication of the endurance of this story. I mean, I have to be honest. I think the first episode is better than the second one. That's not to say I don't like the second one. I just love the setup of the first one. The first one, it just doesn't get any better than the Impossible Planet.
But it's a good cliffhanger as well. And
Brilliant.
Again, and it had stakes. You know, people died, like you said, nastily.
Huge stakes.
The doctor doesn't even think he can handle it. He refuses to believe, doesn't he, till the very end that it could be the devil. You know, so it tests him, it tests his beliefs. And again, falling down the pit, he doesn't even know if he can survive it. He doesn't know if he can get Rose out of the situation.
Yes,
I mean,
it's looking bleak. It is looking bleak.
Really
And it's interesting, isn't it, Sarah? Because again, you compare it to today, and if you were to do something like the Impossible Planet, say, can you imagine the hyperbole that RTD would come out with now about it's the biggest villain of all time, it's the scariest villain, you won't believe it, you've got to watch this to see. And back in the day, it was just presented to us. It was just, here it is. We're quite pleased with this one. We think this one's a good one, and people responded as such. So there we go. 18, happy birthday, 18 years to the Impossible Planet. Now we're going to go. We're spinning the old parameters way back. Now we're going back a full 60 years, an entire 60 years, and this is very, very much a very, very fitting tribute and a respectable tribute to the great William Russell that we lost last week. Because, believe it or not, by the bizarrest of coincidences, 60 years ago today, you could have been watching the final episode of The Aztecs.
Wow.
Episode 4, The Day of Darkness, was screening today at 5:15, exactly 60 years ago. And so we couldn't possibly pass this one up without talking about this because of sadly losing William Russell last week. And it's a good one, really, for William Russell, this one, because bless him, to a large extent, it's Ian Chesterton that saves the day in this particular story. It's actually a beautiful example of the way to do a TARDIS team, because all four of them work together. It's beautiful writing, how all four of them work together to solve an absolutely impossible problem. So again, this is the difference with modern Doctor Who, where the Doctor would just sort of bound in and solve everything in one quick dance move.
And they've had quite recently casts where there has been 3 or 4 of them, and 2 of them have stood around looking like what.
Whereas in this story, in this episode in particular, episode 4, the 4 of them have worked together against all the impossible odds to crack something that is flatly impossible to do, and they do it. And bless him, it is Ian Chesterton that is the one who saves the day. And if you haven't seen the Aztecs yet, I won't tell you, I won't spoil the end for you, because I still maintain this is one of the most beautiful Doctor Who stories of all time, and in my estimation, it's certainly by far the best of the historical stories, at least the ones that exist.
I'd
have to agree as well. And I love it because it was so authentic. They really researched the period, because they did at this time. It wasn't that, that lazy stuff of, it's really aliens, or it's something else. No, it's because now I feel like they would try to re-educate the Aztecs. And I know there was a bit of that with Barbara really wanted to try and change, but you had the proof of you can't do that, Barbara, and she learned a very powerful lesson. But it wouldn't be handled so sophisticatedly
or subtly.
No.
Subtlety. You want subtlety. You want subtlety. Heavens above.
And the thing is that you've got to bear in mind as well, Sarah, is that, as you say, that it's beautifully researched, and yet actually it was hard to research back in those days. Daft as it sounds, 60 years ago, there was a lot less known about the Aztec civilization than there is today. And so Barry Newbury, who was the designer of it, had to really do a lot of hard work, a lot of legwork to go. Again, we take it for granted that these days you just Google a few images and you're there. It was not like that.
I remember learning that Aztecs was one of the first. You know, you always did like the Egyptians and the Victorians, but the Aztecs was one of the periods I did at primary school. So you just take it for granted that.
But not that much, not as much was known in those days. John Lucarotti, who wrote this, he wrote 3 stories in total. He also wrote Marco Polo, a couple of stories earlier, which I think actually, if it existed, might be the greatest of all of the historical.
Yeah, it is spectacular.
And he also wrote The Master.
Yeah.
Say again, sorry, John.
I was listening to Marco Polo today, actually. Yeah.
Were you? Bless you. Were you enjoying it?
Oh, I mean, I've listened to it so many times, but it's just so good.
It is. It is beautiful. It's a beautiful story. So John Lucarotti, who wrote this as his second of 3 stories for Doctor Who, wrote it on his yacht in Mallorca. You'll be pleased to know.
Wow.
Flash bastard.
It was the interesting point. It was the first story to be recorded at BBC Television Centre. There'd been major battles by Verity Lambert to try to get them out of the sort of the Stone Age studios of Lime Grove, and so she finally managed to win her battle and got this story made at BBC Television Centre. Although, ironically, for our purposes, episode 4, which was screened today, was actually made back at Lime Grove.
Okay.
And Jacqueline Hill, that you can see on screen there, she always went on record as saying it was her favourite story, which is hardly surprising because she gets well, let's be honest, all of them get a really good storyline in this. Even Susan, who is sort of largely absent for one episode because she was on holiday, gets a good storyline in this. But Jacqueline Hill, Barbara Wright, really does a beautiful job. With
and the viewing public were taking all of them to their hearts as well, weren't they? Around this time, you know.
And Dan, get this: we were only 6 stories in at this point in the run of the original series. Just 6 stories in, and at this point, the series is already absolutely flying high. Interestingly, you've got Clatoxel there in the middle of the screen. He, of course, is the villain of the piece, played wonderfully by John Ringer with so much relish. He's chewing the scenery, but it never actually feels overdone. He nails this part, and interestingly, he's one of the very, very few villains in Doctor Who that never gets a comeuppance. Because of the
no, he doesn't. Yeah,
he escapes to fight it. He gets no comeuppance whatsoever.
Lex Kane asks in the live chat: was the villain in the Aztecs? Was he the headmaster in Woof? In the Raiders of the Lost Ark Terry's Chocolate Orange advert? Yes, he was, because we've used it in the ad break. He was indeed. And John Ringham was also a key character in what I believe is the greatest sitcom of all time. That's Just Good Friends by John Sullivan with Jan Francis and Paul Nicholas. He plays Penny's father in that. Jan Francis' dad.
Let's talk about Wolf. I used to love that show.
Don't remember. I do remember Wolf. I do remember Wolf, but I never used to watch it.
Bring up Johnny Briggs. Do that.
He's been in everything, but I do advise, because we haven't used it in a while, that Terry's Chocolate Orange advert is fantastic. If you go and Google that, much later on when we're done here at Type 40, of course. And John Ringham did return to the series. You're quite right, Ezra. Later on in Colony in Space in the Pertwee era, a nice little part, but not as colourful as playing Totoxel in this, Simon. I don't think, not as memorable.
And I'll just mention, Tony picks me up on saying that Lime Grove wasn't that antiquated. I'm sure it wasn't, Tony. I'm kind of using Verity's language as much as anything. I think she was extremely critical of Lime Grove.
TARDIS Travels reminds us, Simon, that the Doctor got to make some cocoa, didn't he?
I'm so glad you brought this up, TARDIS Travels, because indeed the Doctor does get to make cocoa for Kamika, that you can see on the right-hand side there. And the reason I'm pleased you brought this up, and indeed, TARDIS Travels, you're correct, he inadvertently gets engaged. And so this, without any doubt, is the first romantic subplot that we ever get to see in Doctor Who. And so this gets, I've even seen this bandied around this week because of all that's gone on with Rogue and the romanticism in Rogue this week. And so I've been berated a couple of times by being told, oh, well, there was sexual chemistry back in Doctor Who in 1964. And you clearly haven't seen the Aztecs if you think that there is any comparison at all. Because the whole point of it is that the Doctor has no idea what he's doing. It's not a romantic subplot on the part of the Doctor. It's purely on Kamika's side. And he just doesn't realise what he's done.
She was very intelligent, and he liked companionship. But
it's a world away. It's a world away from what we saw this weekend, isn't it? I mean, if Russell T Davies was behind the Aztecs, he'd have tried to slip her a fatty before she'd even rolled Coco his head.
No, he'd have them making Coco naked. That's what he'd have.
And smearing it all over their bodies, probably.
And there's that beautiful scene at the end where he what does she give him? Is it a ring?
Yes, I think so.
And he was going to put it down, but he thinks better of it. And just a little small moment.
He takes it, doesn't he? He takes it.
Nuance.
Again, we're back to subtlety, and the whole point being, as I say, that this is a subplot. That's the point of this. It's done beautifully, and it fits within the context of the story, and it gives some interest to the story. It's there for a reason. I agree. Retro Doc, it's a hugely charming subplot.
But I also love when he just nonchalantly says it about getting engaged, and Ian's face is just a picture. It's a wonderful scene.
Yes. And it's all done so beautifully through this sort of metaphor of Coco. It's just really, really cleverly done. And as I say, we were just 6 stories in at this point, so they really knew what they were doing at this point in Doctor Who. They were flying, and the public were loving it, and the viewing figures were just going up and up at this point.
Beautiful stuff. TV gold. Cinnamon Toast Crunch says these people really don't understand context, do they? Robert Payne says, I should Coco.
Hey, see what you did there, Robert.
David M. Nothing's perfect, David, but he says, why didn't Hartnell gyrate to Cilla Black in the Aztecs to the tune Step Outside Love?
Well, if Russell T Davies was in charge again, he would have done. So, and it would have been so much better, but there we are.
Lots of people want Coco now. We've brought it up. Obviously, it's getting late, depending on where you are in the world. Some people may fancy something hot and slippery.
Don't stop it, Dan. Stop it.
Oh, happy days, says Peter Harrington. Oh my, says Lord Thoth, and we've got a simple lol from TARDIS Travels. Happy to make you laugh.
Jack Thursby said, we just needed William Hartnell to grin at the camera and shout, give me the love.
Can you imagine? It would be so much better if he'd done that, but alas, we have to put up with the Aztecs as it is. It's not that good, but
Oh, what a fabulous entry in the diary. I mean, we could go on about this story, couldn't we? And doubtless will it on some podcast in the future. But it's really nice to sort of to gently touch with these stories again. And it's all thanks to you, Simon, researching the Doctor Who diary for us each and every time. Beautiful selection of great memories, of fantastic stories. It just goes to show that our memories, they're not playing tricks on us. Oh, are they? Doctor Who really was that good twice over.
It really was.
Matron says the talons of Wayne Chiang. I'm not quite sure.
I know.
Russell T Davies made a Horlicks. See what you did there. Things are getting late, and Roberts is dishing them all out, isn't he?
This is the show, don't forget, where we're all miserable on this show. Don't forget. They all say we're miserable. Look at us being miserable.
Oh, yeah, it's true, isn't it? Fab, Simon. Stephanie Barrett asks this question here. Is Marco Polo on the iPlayer? It wasn't on BritBox Australia before they removed both the classic and the new Who last year, so I've never seen it. Simon, do you want to break it to Stephanie, or shall I?
I don't think it is. I am going to find out for you now, so bear with me and I'll find out. But I don't think it is on iPlayer, because in fact it doesn't exist. It can only be it would only be in Telesnap's form, and I have a feeling that it's not on there. But I'll find out for you any minute now.
So many more pages, chapters and legends to touch with in the Doctor Who diary, I'm sure, next time, Simon. Thank you again so much for putting all of that together.
Very welcome. It's a pleasure as always.
People love it in the live chat as well. Don't forget, we want your comments about that too. Tell Simon how fantastic it is that he does this. He unearths all these nuggets, these little things. The Chris Evans. Who'd have guessed that one, Sarah? I can't sleep at night.
That's everything. That's a single takeaway from today.
I do need to find out which Chris Evans you're talking about. I am wondering now whether we're talking about a different Chris Evans, the American one.
I don't think there'd be much in it, really. I mean, I do like Chris Evans when he's running around as Captain America, but I think that having our Chris Evans in it, it might have been car crash telly, but it would have been memorable.
Sorry to answer. Was it Rose that asked? If it Rose that asked a question, no, sorry, yes. Marco Polo is not on iPlayer. In fact, looking at it, they seem to have taken an enormous number of the stories off iPlayer.
Oh.
As someone said in the chat, and how I've listened to it today, it is on Audible. So if you subscribe to Audible,
you'll get the
you'll get it on there. Yeah, so it's there.
Marvelous stuff. Let us know which is your favourite of those two picks, or the historicals in general. Do you agree with the general mood here that the Aztecs is the best of them, or are you experiencing the like John is at the moment in audio form? A lot of them do translate better than you'd think to audio, particularly Hartnell episodes of Doctor Who, don't they?
I've been listening to the Highlanders on audio, and that works really well. Be enjoying that.
I think listening to Marco Polo again, don't get me wrong, I'd love to have it back, but I think having your mind's eye creating a lot of it really builds that story up.
It does.
Gives it size, and it's lovely. I really do.
But I genuinely think that it wouldn't be disappointing if we got, if you got to see it. Of all of the stories, that's the one that I would like to see back.
That's that's the gold star. I mean, I'm a bit in love with Mark Eden. Anyway,
bless you.
On that bombshell, that wraps up the diary for yet another week. Thanks again, Simon. One more thing. I almost forgot. Yes, as ever, you're watching Type 40 live. Doctor Who talk coming your way for hours and hours of it here with us across YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and on X. And this is the bit where we round things off with a last look at the view screen, our regular eye up your temporal schism in search of the prettiest pictures from out there, in the Whoniverse. We're talking fan art, whether it's traditional art, digital art, cosplay, or crafting. It all counts. It's all a viable target to get up here on the screen. And we need you to do your part too. You need to send us fan art or artists. Connect them with us or us with them. We don't really care which way around it is, as long as we get the good stuff up on our screen here to lay before the live chat and expand their artistic appreciation. First of all, some of the nonsense I come out with, Sarah, just not yes. So first of all,
I'm used to it. It's just
how many years now, Sarah? Jesus,
too many.
Far too many. Okay, so this one, we're right up to date. So we have had the terrible news that Dot and Bubble managed to register the lowest new series consolidated figure. Yes, that's correct. So many lows lately. I was poor for choice, John. The lowest ever consolidated figure for an episode of Doctor Who, but it hasn't stopped it being the inspiration for some fans to create fabulous art. And I really like this. This looks like it could be on a t-shirt. This one's from Alice, and it's simply entitled Eat the Rich.
I like that. It's good.
It's quite funny, and it's a bit Pokemon as well, Sarah, like your hat.
Yeah, we've gone full circle again. You must have known. It does make the monster look a bit too cute, though. I've got to...
Yeah, well, I think at most Doctor Who monsters, most of the best ones are cute, aren't they?
Did this actually happen in the episode? Then did they eat people? Is that what happened?
Well, I'm not entirely sure. I think I get the impression that they were consumed in some form or another. Yes.
Dot and flop, says Cinnamon Toast.
I could really see.
Brilliant.
I wonder if Tom's still in the chat. I could see this being a lovely model that Tom.
You're
would
right. Tom would do a fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, I'd like that as well. Lex Kane's just laughing. I think he likes that. He likes something. I would hope to get all the laughs out of him. It's okay, says Ezra Goldstein. John, where are you with this kind of art, John? Would you wear a T-shirt like that in bright pink?
Oh yeah, I'd wear it absolutely. The meetup, I'm going for it. Go on. Next meetup, I'm putting it on. I'm walking around town with it on.
I think it'd really suit you, and I think Simon, you wearing that, Simon wearing the "Honey, I'm here for fun" T-shirt. I mean,
stop it.
I think it'd just be a brilliant double act.
We've got Gary Akers in the live chat. Says the hair looks like a tongue.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Gary. I thought it's tongue for a minute, and having not watched the episode fully, I didn't know whether it was a tongue or not.
That's even more sinister because that's the creature licking the person.
The chick in that episode has got that blonde fringe as well, hasn't she?
Yes, she has. I think the only way this picture could have been better if it was RTD that was being eaten.
If you're watching, Alice, can you please get on that?
Yeah, we need that. We need that in our lives.
I didn't. I mean, I've seen clips, but this is really cute, and it's a good piece of art.
You can find Alice on Instagram with her fan art. Fabulous, fabulous stuff. Rotten Trouble, says Richard. This fabulous Gallifreyan seal icon. Yeah, you could be right. You could be right. Of course, we are inching our way to the season finale, and we've been speculating that it could be the destroyer, the consumer of all things, the nasty bastard Sutekh, that could be on his way back. But for a while, I was convinced it was the Daleks, and I do wonder if they've done the right thing not using the Daleks in this finale. So I fancied seeing a Dalek. That's the main reason that I've got this one up on screen. This is from Ant Lamb, and a fabulous retro poster print that you can buy these on Ant's Etsy store. But just a stunning print, I think.
That's fabulous. That's so.
It's the remembrance.
Yeah,
it's the remembrance. 80s. It's the remembrance in the Daleks model as well, Sarah. And if you,
yeah, brilliant.
Yes, you're right. It is remembrance, isn't it? Because I can see the sucker and I can see the sort of diamond-shaped lozenge in the middle, the panel.
I love the back. Is that like I don't know. Is it Joy Division or is it New Order? Got that kind of background. You see?
Yeah, I associate it with I'd say more New Order than Joy Division. Although around that time, absolutely, it's an extension of one of the
very, very 80s in the best possible sense. That's a compliment and not a criticism.
I would have that on a T-shirt without.
Yeah, so would I.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that would make a cool T-shirt. You're right, actually, John.
Yeah,
that's more like it, says Matthew Pounder. Ezra's a lot more taken with this fantastic Dalek artwork, and the talents of Wayne Chiang simply says nice. Cinnamon Toast says it's striking.
Yep,
and if you're out there, and it even gets a fabulous from Crimpling Doubloon. It would look good in my cinema room, boasts Lex Kane with his cinema room. You
need photos of the cinema room.
Yes, we do.
Yes. Please do more pretty
and
pictures.
An invitation, we'll all come round and watch.
Yeah. What a good idea.
Good Doctor Who. We'll watch the Aztecs.
Dalek-tastic, says Stephen Braddock. Extraordinary. Puns, Mark Milford. Come to the right place with that. Yeah, it is very, very 80s, very kind of Miami Vice. I like all this stuff.
And I've only just realised as well, you probably already said that a few minutes ago, Dan, that the spaceships are the remembrance.
Yeah,
spaceships,
John mentioned that, didn't you?
Sorry, John. Was it you? Right, I obviously didn't quite catch that because that's what they are. It looks like it should be an annual or something like a Dalek annual.
Yeah, it'd be perfect an annual.
Yeah, it needs to be the cover of the Dalek annual, doesn't it?
They're missing a trick. They're missing a trick not bringing the Daleks back soon.
Gary Newman, Peter Harrison says, "Yeah, you're right. It is very Gary Newman. Actually, the graphics and that are very Gary Newman."
Yeah, lovely colours. I want it, says Peter Harrington. I want it. I want it.
I just love the blue highlight just at the front of the Dalek. I just love that little blue highlight.
Yeah, it's a lovely touch. And I like that. And the green as well. Yeah, oh, it's all lovely.
It works really well.
Like
that as well chosen on that one, Dan.
Hell yes, says David M. Also tying back to an item from just before the last segment, actually, is this next one. And I just really like this. It's a moment from that two-part, The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit, captured here by Adora's Hair Prof on Instagram.
Yeah, that's
nice. So, Sarah, remind us what was going on here.
So they were going down to they'd lost all the power, and they were going down to the planet to go inside the pit. And there was the possibility that these two weren't going to see each other again, and it was just a really high stakes moment, really beautifully done. And yet, I mean, obviously, they really care about each other, but again, it was really subtly done. If this was shooting, that'd be tongue in the helmet or something. I don't know.
Like a scene from Alien.
And yet just really, really sweetly done, yeah.
Well, again, subtlety, isn't it, Sarah? It's all about subtlety.
I just want to watch it again now this weekend. I think I really are.
Stephen Braddock says it's a beautiful scene and beautiful artwork, and CTC loves this one as well.
It's really good.
Right.
Very nice. I'm wondering whether that's done by hand. Is it hand or digital? Do we know?
This is by hand. It looks like it's done with.
It's by hand, yeah.
There's rollers and there's markers and various things on there.
It's really nice.
Very, very nice. Crimpling the Balloon says, I daren't think who Shooty would want kissing his helmet.
God, yeah. That wasn't a poor choice of words by me.
Say no more. Say no more. But yeah, when I saw this and the golden sort of hues of it, it made me want to go and watch the story, and I think that's a credit to the right style capturing the right moment, John.
Absolutely, and I'm with Sarah on this. I think I'm going to stick it on this weekend. I miss getting a box set through for a season and just going for it. From beginning to end, everything, all the extras. I miss that, and I used to do it with these series.
So did I.
So good.
So did I. Fabulous piece of artwork. And to round off, to bring us back to the speculation over what could be coming or who could be coming this weekend. Could he be on the way back? We've got this fabulous piece of artwork here from Scott Gray, imagining a confrontation between Sutekh and Omega. Both of these villains, I suppose you could say they're quite similar characters, Simon. They're in their robes, they got their throaty voices, and they scare the life out of the Doctor, don't they?
I mean, Omega in many ways is on a similar-ish kind of level to Sutekh.
Yeah.
The only reason he's not maybe quite as powerful is because he's stuck in a black hole. Whereas if he got out, he could be just as badass as Sutekh. I think they're a comparable match. And when you look at them like that, they're sort of similar-ish designs as well, aren't they? They're not a million miles apart. And I've always loved the Omega design from the Three Doctors. I thought it was far superior to the one from Arc of Infinity. I don't know why they changed it. Don't know why they changed it.
Classic.
Is Scott Gray a comic book artist? Because it looks very comic.
Yes, he's mostly, strange enough, he's mostly a comic book writer on the Marvel, on the Doctor Who magazine comic strip for many, many years, and a great writer. And he's a kind of an illustrator more so than a comic book artist, I feel, although I could be wrong. But he has managed to capture the quality of Marvel comics, and particularly stuff like Jack Kirby with this. So I really like his stuff. I like the fact that it's quite stylized, a little bit cartoony, just cartoony enough. I think Scott's work's beautiful, even though he doesn't like me very much.
It makes me think it's got that little bit of, like you say, Fantastic Four, Galactus kind of.
John, it almost makes me think this is what it would be like if Sutekh and Omega were to appear in Scooby Doo. It's almost Scooby Doo monsters. I'll get you, meddling kids, if it's the last thing I do.
Absolutely fantastic, says Lex Kane. Mark Milford reminds us that the fans are doing the best work. Matthew Pounder says it's very Marvel Comics. Jack Thursby, it's cool comic art. And Talons of Wayne Chiang says, "Ooh, I like that. I like that."
Yeah.
Which is absolutely amazing.
I'd read a comic strip about Omega and Sutekh. That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
It would,
two absolute titans.
Definitely would. The Three Doctors was great.
Yeah,
says
agreed.
Heat Thinker.
Yeah,
Heat Thinker. What a brilliant name. My money's on Sutekh, says G35. My God, the Sutekhs are high, says Jack Thursby.
Yeah. I think in a punch-up, I think Sutekh probably would come out on top. It has to.
Will's got a point here. He says, "I imagine Omega was reimagined, so we wouldn't guess it was him early in the story."
Yeah,
is that's
absolutely
likely,
what it was? That is correct, Will. That's absolutely what they did. But I always thought you could have still kept the original design, and you could have just shot it in such a way that the mask wasn't revealed until the giveaway. That's how I would have done it. I've always thought that, but there we go. What do I know?
Incredible piece of fan art and very stirring. It makes me kind of keen to get Sutekh back. Oh, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, damn.
What we do need is more of
springs to mind. Dan.
What we do need is more artwork to put up on these walls. Look how bare they all are now. I know we need you to send some fan art our way, whether it's your art or the art of someone you admire. You want to get it up on our wall here, up on the view screen for everybody to have a good goosey gander. You can do that when you contact us here at Type 40. You can do that in one of many ways. You can drop us a comment. Of course you can. If you don't fancy doing that, you can reach out to us through our social media, Instagram and X at Type 40 Doctor Who. Are you used to calling it X yet, everybody? I think I am, just about. That's where you can reach us there. Cut out the middleman if you wish by joining us in the Type 40 Facebook group. Now, I'm not saying all these guys are members of the Type 40 Facebook group, don't get me wrong, but you'll never know for certain which ones could be, should be, until you join up too. So go over to Facebook, type 40 into the search field, and you'll see us right away. The Type 40 Facebook group. The Legend of Ruby Sunday is about to be unwound for our viewing pleasure, whether we like it or not. Traditionally, Sarah, you like me, you love the original Russell T Davies era. When it came time, you trudged your way, not trudged, actually tricked your way, because it was a pleasure. You tricked your way through a whole series. The end was in sight, and you thought, yes, I can feast on this double episode, and you'd be pretty safe in the knowledge that it was going to deliver, that perhaps you wouldn't like everything that was on screen, but you knew it was going to be a tumultuous, emotional ride, and he never failed to deliver, did he? 4, maybe even 5 times if you count the end of time. Not quite so certain this time, is it? Are you going to be watching? Are you watching these?
No, no. I will. I'll be monitoring responses, and obviously I'll be hearing what you guys say, and if it's good, if I get the feedback from you. Your good self and Charlotte and everyone else that it's good, I will consider it. But I've been disappointed too many times, and I just can't bring myself. And the Sutekh stuff just fills me with horror.
It does me.
Not in the right way.
Yes,
that's the Legend of Ruby Sunday coming this weekend. How about you, John?
Yeah, I'm watching it. I'm gonna slog to the end. I've said to you, I'm not overly enjoying it, but I'm invested now. I want to see it through to the finale. And I said earlier, if he turns out 2 absolutely cracking episodes, that's great. But I would look back and think it's a wasted season, because you could have done this all the way through. Have belting stories, but we'll see. And I look forward to discussing it as we always do once we've watched him.
In for a penny, in for a pound. The legend of Ruby Sunday, and could the mystery about to be revealed about her origins. I do wish I cared more, because I have enjoyed everything that Millie Gibson's been doing on this show when she's been given the room to, I suppose, and seeing her together with Ncuti Gatwa. So we shall see. As always, we want to know what you think too when you get it down you at the weekend. Get it down you. Maybe you fancy getting some of these down you. I don't know. That's a terrible.
What you say, Ncuti Gatwa's company.
It's okay, mate. Get back. You dog. So join us again very, very soon for more hot takes, pet peeves, rants, or indeed raves on the next Type 40 Live, the 2-part finale event bringing this season of episodes to a close. It's here. So part 1 arrives midnight Saturday morning on the iPlayer, simultaneously with the rest of the world on Disney Plus there, and we'll be back very soon with our reactions. Sarah, great to have you back on this one for stepping into the breach. I hope we don't have nightmares about them ruining anything.
I'm going to regret this, aren't I? But no, honestly, it's lovely to be back. I miss everyone, but I am kind of just like hiding behind the sofa waiting for this to be over.
We all are.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth Knightsbridge there. What a lovely comment. And yes, rest in peace to Clobby as well. Dear Mike Alonso. I think I'll watch the Pyramids of Mars instead, says Stephen Braddock.
A lot of people are saying they're going to be watching Pyramids of Mars instead this weekend.
Simon, I know that you're off into space and time for a little while yourself. You're going on holiday, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. I'm going away for a couple of weeks. I'm going to be off in Yorkshire, so if anybody is around in Yorkshire and bumps into me, say hello. There you go.
Keep your eyes out for a Horton out in the wild. And John, thank you again for your company, your contributions. All this rich wisdom and knowledge we're bringing through piece by piece, aren't we?
Well, I was going to say,
the Church of John Yulden.
I was going to say, you're not getting knowledge and wisdom from me, so I don't know where you got that idea.
And everybody watching out there in the live chat, so that's part 1 coming this weekend. Let us know what your anticipation levels at for the close of this season, or can't it come fast enough for you? There are no wrong answers here at Type 40 Live. No judgments ever, of course. And what I want you to do is to, make sure that you're subscribed. Check if you think you're subscribed, because you might not be, because YouTube can be little tinkers like that. And turn on your notifications, because we may be coming back a little sooner than you think, but we always have the time if you have the space here at Type 40 Live. See you very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.